Whoa, whoa, yeah, yeah. Don't go running around in these circles. You'll trip and fall and it hurts yourself. And I'm thinking I might assert myself. The worth of the passion, the work that I'm patching through. Ain't nobody really asking you. And I'm rolling through dirt, I'ma push through the mud. I'ma get to the surface and receive the love. And I'm saying there's nobody flowing like me. Cadence of gold and I'm thinking I'll eat. And I'll beat up these tracks like Muhammad Ali. I'm a beast, K.I.D. unique. Wanna see where I compete. Houdini mixed with awkward routine. Because these verses be so magic. And I spit this shit so mean. Oh, woo, 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 woo. Damn, I'm not fucking with you. Spitting is sickness, no, it's not written. I swear when I sing, I'm a monster too. No, when I'm working, I'm teaching a lesson. And give me a month and no hour of a veteran. No, I don't need no set list. If I'm bored, then I'll free up my next to. So, who are you talking to? Tell me who you talking to. I've been grinding from the basement, still I got a lot to do. Let's establish who the raddest. I'm a dapper rapper, dude. But even so, let's keep this going, cause I got a lot of tunes. I've been killing this, not even just recently. I'll admit defeat if you can really just compete with me. No, truly, I'll concede and even back my bag to go. Even so, I know the odds on that.
Every day we been getting this shit. I said for 100, keep it 200 go. They cannot fuck with the vision. I wanted to get it, so I'ma get 200 more. Homies been flipping, I just been chilling, kicking it like taekwondo. Came fast like I'm in the man last when I finish and say on the microphone. Hey, I'm faded, yeah, yeah. Hey, I'm faded, yeah. Chilling with the squad and we talking how we gon' make it.
Ooh. Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome. Today we have a really special treat for you guys. We have the Insurgency Sandstorm lead developer with us today. We got a guest, Karma Cut, as well as our co-host, Oddboz. We're here to talk about New World Interactive's FPS shooter, Insurgency Sandstorm. I'm sure a lot of you guys have played it. You have seen it. And today is just kind of, we're going to be talking about the game. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff the community has been talking about, a lot of upcoming features, plans, and content. So I'm pretty excited, man. It should be great. So I'll let Mike here kick it off. He's the lead developer for Insurgency Sandstorm at New World. Can you give us like your elevator pitch for exactly what Sandstorm is and what you guys are trying to do with the game?
Sure, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me, guys. Of course. Really appreciate it. My name is Michael Suras. I'm the lead game designer on Insurgency Sandstorm. Our elevator pitch is we like to say we're in the middle of the spectrum as far as first-person shooter goes. Like over here, you got Arma, you got Squad, even Tarkov. Over here, you got Call of Duty, you got Battlefield, you got the more fast-paced stuff, Quake, Overwatch, whatever. We're somewhere in the middle. We like to strike a balance. We're kind of like medium fast. It's a hardcore, tactical, teamwork-oriented, objective-oriented first-person shooter game. It's set in the Middle East. It features versus, cooperative, and competitive modes featuring security forces battling with insurgent forces.
That sounds fucking awesome. I mean, I've played a lot of Sandstorm, and I personally feel it's one of the best FPS games that's kind of flying under the radar right now. A lot of the reasons being the sound design is immaculate, the player controller is amazing, the reloads, the animations of the guns in first person are absolutely fantastic. But one thing a lot of people want to know about is about the game modes. So we got Firefight, Push, and we got Skirmish right now. Can you talk about these and like how they're kind of the bread and butter of Sandstorm and how they? I understand these are your original game modes in the mod.
Absolutely, yeah. Those are, and it was actually in the standalone version too. Insurgency was a mod that came out in 2007. Insurgency Modern Infantry Combat for Half-Life 2. And then we had a standalone release on the Source engine in 2014. And yes, those are, I guess you could say, our foundation, those game modes. They're all oriented around one thing, which is objective play. It's really important to us, I guess, with any of our modes and all of our gameplay is we want people to be playing in games. It's not just like a pure deathmatch, but that is focused on working together, capturing objectives, and doing all that kind of thing. So
less about a Call of Duty deathmatch, right?
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, exactly. It's like when you capture an objective, you respawn your team. For instance, I guess it differs by the mode. In Firefight, that's like kind of our slowest mode, you could say. There's 3 objectives, and one team owns one, the other team owns the other. The middle one is neutral, and you have to capture all the objectives or kill the enemy team to win. And you only respawn when you capture an objective. So there's a lot of cool clutch moments that come out of this, but generally speaking, it forces this kind of cooperative play where you're like, all right, we have to go here. Okay, you guys go here. So it gets tactical in, the sense that the word tactical actually means, right? Yeah. You're making these small decisions and clearing rooms and all that kind of thing.
No, I agree. I think your game modes, especially Firefight, super dynamic. You know, one player can clutch an objective, respawn the whole team. I've done that a few times, and it's really fun. There's so many ways you can win. It's either killing all the enemies, capturing all the objectives, but it can also be really back and forth. You can get some good matches where it's just like, oh, you keep capturing objectives, then they respawn the team, then it respawns the other team again, and they're fighting again. It's a lot of fun, man. I'm definitely
Exactly.
enjoying it. Yeah. Very dynamic.
Skirmish is similar. It's less like Firefight, only you also have destructible objectives on either end of the team, on both teams. And if you destroy these, the enemy team will stop gaining reinforcement waves. These reinforcement waves come every time you capture an objective, where it's like, okay, we spawned you in, and here's a reinforcement wave. This means that you can like respawn in a regular interval. So that's like our medium pace.
Okay.
Push is perhaps our most popular and our most iconic, where it's similar to Rush and Battlefield, you could say. Although we've had it in the game for a long time. You're capturing one objective at a time. Attackers going against the defenders, push them back all the way till you get to their enemy weapon cache. So the attackers plant an explosive or throw grenades or whatever on that and destroy it, and then they win. And there's regular respawn intervals the whole time. So the way to win is to run out the clock or to kill all of the reinforcement waves.
Nice.
It's definitely my favorite game.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you like it?
It's really fun.
Yeah, honestly, out of any first-person shooter game, like ever, Push is my favorite.
Yeah, it's a good classic.
That's
it's fun.
Thank you.
Version did it just takes it to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Especially with the new support things.
Oh,
yeah, calling in A10s, choppers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of the most like living, breathing sort of objective-based
like when you hear that A10 come in and just fucking you see it flying in the sky, it's really freaking cool. One thing I would honestly love to see is if like somehow the players could like be in the gun and like shoot people, so say you're the observer, right? You call it in. You know, being the observer, all you do is you stick next to the commander. It's not like it's fun, but it's more like an objective based thing. But it'd be so cool if you could like, you know, switch perspectives and be the gunner for like 30 seconds. And you're just in there in the minigun and you're just fucking spraying on the players, dude. I think that'd be super fun.
That's an interesting suggestion. You know, one of the things we've even talked about internally, and we've also heard feedback about, is like, oh, it's cool to play the observer. Like, I get it, but I feel kind of bored. Part of our approach with that is like, we don't want it to be like extraordinarily complicated, right? We don't want you looking up at a map and reading out the coordinates to station, you know. But it would be cool. I guess it would give something for the observer to do. At the same time, like, it's kind of gamey, and like with these vehicles, you're already putting a lot of trust in these two bred hobbies, right? The commander and the observer. Do you really want to trust the observer to be hitting the mark with his structure? Like, what if he does friendly fire in addition to the commander's possible friendly fire? So, but that's true. Like, it is a cool way that we can make the observer have a little more incentive.
Right.
Going back to vehicles, I know that at one point you're able to lean out of the technicals and shoot out of the windows. Did you guys remove that, or is that a bug?
No, that was something that we did want. Unfortunately, because of just animation constraints and resources, we had to cut that. We're going to re-explore it post-release. To be frank, I'm like, I don't want to pull the indie card. I know it's a shitty excuse, but we're a small team. To give you some comparison, there's like 1,200 people at Riot. There's 500 people at DICE. There's hundreds of people at all the Call of Duty games. There's 37 of us. Like, there's not really a lot of people. But of course, like, this is stuff that we can do post-release. It's just a matter of us exploring it, making sure there's value to it. I'd like for people to be able to also draw more weapons within the passenger seat. Like, I mean, you guys know tactical shooting and all that stuff, and we've done the research, and like you can bring an M4 or Mark 18, especially up inside a vehicle. So. Why do you have to lean out?
In the beta, I hope you bring it back, because driving down the street, hanging out the window with an RPG, it's just like one of the most glorious moments, like, on stream.
It's very funny you mention that, because I was talking to the project lead about it, and I'm like, is this okay? Like, I don't know. I don't know if you want to allow this. It's kooky, but you know,
it's the kind of thing you expect someone less trained to do.
Yeah,
you know,
just to do something really dumb.
That makes it different. Yeah, exactly.
It's cool. Like, narratively, the insurgents and security are made up of like local fighters, right? Like, I want to put it past any local person in that region to be like, I'm just going to do this. Like, there's not really a lot of accountability for us.
Right.
What was that? Yeah.
No, I was just saying they have to do what they think is best, you know, without having any training. Yeah, exactly. So it'd just be some really jank shit. Probably get somebody hurt.
Possibly, yeah. But actually, a question about that. I hear conflicting opinions on the backblast, but like, realistically, this has always been.
I say if you can add backblast, add it. I mean, it's a realistic thing. I mean, if you stand behind a rocket launcher, you're gonna die. I mean, obviously you can play
around.
Will
you really die, or will you?
No, yeah, you'll actually, if you stand within 4 feet. Maybe or I think it's like 4 feet or less behind an RPG. The backblast, that overpressure, hits you in the face. It will kill you. Because all that is, it's a bunch.
Literally a grenade blast.
Yeah, it's literally
focused out and exhaust.
Yeah, it's literally pretty much. It's overpressure just coming straight out the back of that thing, and it will fucking kill you. There's actually a video. I could find it for you somewhere. There's some insurgents fighting somewhere in Syria. Guy is literally shooting an RPG, not even paying attention behind him. Guy's right behind him, shoots it. The dude literally flops over and dies. Just like the backblast hits him right in the face. He's standing maybe 2 feet behind the RPG. He folds on the ground. He's just dead. Just dead.
I've seen it blow someone's shirt off before.
Yeah.
Like just clean off his body. Dude.
Yep.
it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's literally.
I think as a gameplay perspective as well, I think Insurgency has this, it's more of a casual game than, super serious. And when you are playing competitive, you need to be more careful about the backblast. But the backblast thing is a lot of fun. If someone makes that mistake, it's just a fun moment to laugh at. Or you just kill your teammate, or even trying to kill an enemy with the backblast. Just as a bit of fun.
Oh, that's one of my favorite things to do in squad is find someone that isn't paying attention and try to get that backblast kill.
Yeah,
get them behind you.
You're giving people creative rights, to make their own fun in the game, and that's those little quirky things about the game really add to it.
I think that's a good. My opinion on it was always like, oh, you could grief people with this, but I guess you could grief people with regular guns.
Yeah, you can friendly fire them and shoot them anyway.
Yeah. So that's true. Like it is a fun moment, just as you said, Odd. It's like, oh shit, you came with the backblast, and like, people get frustrated, but then they'll respond.
But also, you want to be a tactical shooter, so you're gonna have to, if somebody's gonna play an RPG role, and you're gonna be on a competitive team, you have to think, hey, this guy's a fucking backblast. He can't be running around just shooting his RPG willy nilly. He has to actually kind of think about where he's at.
Yeah, you can't cluster together. You have to communicate with each other. And that's another competitive element to add in there. You can make mistakes, as the deadly mistakes even.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's a good point. I'll speak to some of the other designers. I'm open to considering that.
I would check out Squad. Squad does backblast very well. I mean, and it's distance based. So like, if you're about 5 feet behind somebody, you're not going to get hurt by backblast. But if you're within like the 3-foot range behind that, and it's like a very narrow path, you will take damage in that tiny little square. It's just kind of how it is.
Right. One of my buddies is also a Marine, and I had asked him, and he was like, no, it'll just singe your hair off. But I think he meant like beyond 5 feet. I asked him like, what if you're right up?
If you're right,
every launch is different as well. Yeah, you get like just genuine rocket-based type launchers that don't have an initial
or recoilless
explosion.
like the Carl Gustav. I don't think that even has backblast. It probably does, but I don't know. I never shot one.
Well, I think that's cool. I think that's interesting, and I can ask some of the other people about that.
Yeah, that's another thing as well, like that concussion effect. Your teammates are around you. You get the ear ring in your left ear because someone just fired an RPG off to you. So and that's one of the things. That sound design in there, it just adds a bit more. Makes it more wholesome.
We want to, it's 2 things. One, like, yes, that's true, and it's even mechanic. Like we have suppression in the game. You get shot at, your character cries out, your vision blurs.
It makes it harder to get that shot. If you're sniping.
Exactly right. So like if you get blasted in the face by an RPG, like from beyond 5 feet, you get suppressed, even if it's a friendly. And I think that's cool. Speaking of the sound you were just saying, one of the things that we talked about is like for 50 cals, like for MGs, or even for maybe if we added 50 caliber sniper rifles at some point, then they could like they could deafen you. You like actually get a little tinnitus if one of your buddies shoots them near your ear.
That's actually one of my favorite things about the game too, is the sound you do when you do get tinnitus. Like you cannot hear gunshots, you can't hear anything, and that's something that a lot of games don't really do. Is because when an artillery shell goes off, that's extremely loud. It's going to be much louder than a gunshot. A gunshot's not going to sound like anything to you after that. And I definitely love that about the game because it really makes it feels like it's a chaotic battle.
You could even add,
I'm surprised.
Like some sort of noise cancelling headset to combat, and that can, part of your equipment. Yeah, contacts, exactly. So it costs you an extra point, but that takes away from your equipment that you could be. Sorry, I cut in front of you, Cameron. There.
No, yeah, I know what you're saying. That is something that we actually talked about, but we kind of ultimately decided like, we want to have that be a cosmetic option, which is how it exists now. With our aesthetic, we have to be disciplined, right? We can't do anything too kooky as far as cosmetics go. So we're trying to keep all those options available for people who just want to look cool.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So moving on here, the current game modes are more or less the same as the original Sandstorm, which creates a solid experience and a great foundation for the game. But some people feel that it ultimately lacks some kind of depth where the game could really flourish, especially there being, controllable vehicles and everything. Every other aspect of the game is solid, like audio, the guns, the firefights, the performance, the sound. But a lot of the feedback that we hear from the community is actually more concerning about the experience in the game modes that they're playing. Is there any talks about future game modes or anything else that can maybe be a bit different from like the original Insurgency experience?
Yeah, there's been some talk of that, definitely, both internally, and we've heard some feedback on it. One of the modes that we were experimenting with that we wanted to have for release was called Capture the Base. And in Capture the Base, it was like a more open map. There were less, if not no, restricted areas, pretty much. And you had enemy objectives that you could destroy, multiple ones, that would reduce reinforcement waves. And you also had just like constant vehicles on both sides. The issue that we encountered with this mode was that it got pretty hectic, and it also felt a little empty and misdirected. Like there were too many things to do. And one of the things that I think our modes really benefit from is having the focus. Like every one of the modes has focus. There's one or a couple objectives. Capture the Base, there was like 6. Defend these 3 and also attack or destroy those 3. Now this is, this could work. I think it's more a matter of honestly like player count. Like we've talked about it. We thought like, well, this is a neat concept, but like we don't want to shrink it because then it's kind of too similar to the other modes.
Right.
I mean, we'd consider it, but so like if we bump the player count up to like 40 to 48, maybe even 64, maybe that could work.
Yeah.
Now again, like maybe that's too frenetic, and also you got to be conscious of the hardware, right?
Yeah, of course.
We already have optimization that we got.
Yeah, you got to think about the server. You got to think about people's clients, the CPU, and stuff like that. Because I know a big portion of your community who were used to playing the game on the Source engine that would run on a fucking toaster. Now it's on the Unreal Engine. You get all these people complaining like, "Oh my gosh, like why isn't this running as the last game?" It's like, well, this is a new game. It's on a new engine. It's new technology. It's like it's not. It's not going to perform the same way as the Source engine. It doesn't work like that. So, I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I personally would love to see, 48, 64 player mode on Insurgency, like a really true large scale kind of battle experience. I think would be a lot of fun. And just
I'd love to see push.
Yeah.
With a huge.
Yeah.
Ooh, man.
Like a big push. Multiple
objectives.
You could do like multiple objectives.
It would be fantastic,
even.
man.
Yeah.
I would love it so much.
Yeah. You could have like multiple capture
you're bringing that like Battlefield scale, but your guys' mode is much more, I don't know, intimate, and that's I appreciate that a lot. Like,
just
I think that would be
810
fantastic.
come in on a huge assault. That'd be awesome. Smoke mortars dropping and pushing on sides.
Right.
Absolutely.
I actually got a question about push. Has any thought been put into like randomizing the cap points or actually adding more, I guess, layers to the objectives on push or even the other game modes? I feel like just switching up the same places you're fighting on adds a lot to the replayability of the game.
Well, yeah, that's part of what we try to do with the multiple, you can play as the security or as the insurgents, but of course, it's very similar. One of the things we actually talked about even very recently, and, don't quote me on this, like or you can quote me, but like, just know that it's something we're just discussing.
Project development's planned. We trust me, like I work with Nikita a lot, the lead for Battlestate Games. His favorite word is planned, because a lot of shit's planned, but it might not happen. So it makes sense.
You want to know my other favorite word? Explore. We're currently exploring.
Okay.
Yeah. We're exploring X or Y or whatever. And yes, like that's, so you guys get it. Yeah. We're currently exploring the idea of basically like, we want to take certain push maps, like maybe Farmhouse, I think is possible. We're talking about maybe having like a 4th objective instead of just the 3 objectives. And then, you destroy the thing,
right?
You destroy the cache. That's like one thing we can do. Honestly, like with these layouts, it's very tough to find a push map that's really balanced and really fun for both attackers and defenders. And it's something that we're constantly working to balance. But that being said, we're open to the idea of doing multiple scenarios, because like our maps are bigger than they were in Insurgency.
Oh yeah,
it's
I love
definitely
your guys' map
possibilities.
design. There's always like one actually, and again, another favorite thing about your guys' game is the map design's really well done. There's a lot of areas and free travel. There's choke points, but there's multiple choke points everywhere, and you can kind of set up in different positions. Allows you to flank and kind of cover different areas and try and get through people's flanks, which is awesome. And I think what Karma was trying to say is that just more layers to kind of change up those choke points and change up the spots where people normally go. I'm trying to remember this one map where it's push and it's like, it's not, I want to say it's Summit, maybe not Summit, but there's basically like this fucked up house and the objective's like in the far left-hand side corner. and it's just like this fucking kill house, and there's a bus in the road, and like the guys like just literally keep fighting from the same spot, and it's really hard to try and flank anywhere through there. And so kind of mixing it up would be, I guess more of a dynamic experience, but.
No, it's true. That's true. Yeah, and I think one of the ways to tackle that is, of course, balancing, because we're still balancing the map, we're still tweaking stuff. In fact, we talked about that bus before,
yeah.
So we're talking about things like that. Also, there's this other option, which I see you guys are saying, like, what about multiple push layouts? The maps are big enough to possibly warrant it. It's more about just like, let's iron out the ones we have, then let's explore these other ones, and then potentially, like, I guess it's just a matter of like communicating it. It's already kind of, this is like a minor thing, but it's already kind of long to say, oh, let's play Summit Push Security. So it would be like Summit Push Security 2 or something like that. Summit Push Security 1. That's small, but like we'd have to figure that communication out as well.
Okay.
Still, like, yeah, I think it's interesting. I could speak to the level designers about that for post-release, I think.
One of the ways, like I thought about Push, is that in order to make the classes a bit more like prominent, is perhaps put like walls that are destructible, so your C4 guy can create a new route out, like get around these checkpoints.
If you guys
that would be really cool.
If you guys had destructible environments, dude, oh my gosh. Yeah, that would be awesome. And I love the breaching features you guys have already, but if I could actually blow shit up and like get through some places, that'd be fun.
And that's specific areas, set pieces. And one of the things I really like about certain games is, you can change the environment to give you advantage or give the enemy a disadvantage. I think like using the C4 or even your RPG, like giving them multiple different options to either force the enemy to come a certain way or give you a new route around that specific type of choke point.
Yeah, because I know you guys had that Day of Infamy, right? So are we going to see that return in Sandstorm?
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah, in Day of Infamy, we had like on the Dog Red, the Omaha Beach map, you could destroy a part of the bunker and you could get in. That was controlled destruction, right? Like our opinion on destruction is, I guess it's a couple things. For one, like we're open to the idea of limited destruction, because if we make it like fully destructive, like Battlefield style, for instance,
it's hard on the server.
People just level them up.
Yeah. Well, it's true. It's hard on the server. It's hard on the engine, but it's also like it's hard on the level design. Because like if we made this perfect house and we've got this structure right here, 50 meters away from it, and we put this car right here and this right here, and you just blow all that up, you just have a flat surface.
Yeah, there's just nothing there.
And like, where do you take cover? What do you do? Like, this objective is no longer an objective. It's just like a piece of rubble.
Have you guys considered like map terraforming from like artillery? So like if arty strikes the ground, it kind of creates like little craters, like deviations in the map to where, that could actually potentially be a place for somebody to go and deflate and hide and cover and kind of, again, like terraform the map a little bit. So the artillery is like, oh shit, artillery was definitely here. Obviously you could limit it. I remember that in Bad Company 2. You could literally just keep shooting a fucking grenade launcher in the ground, and eventually you'd have like a little, like, crater you could go hide in, and you could hide, you could fight from there. And I feel like that could be, could be an easy option. It's not, I don't know how heavy that would be on the server. I'm not a developer, but I feel like that would be a simple form of dynamic destruction that's just literally on the map layer, ground floor, that could create some interesting results.
Yeah, that could be interesting. That's something that we could explore. I think that you could run into the same issue, but you're right. Like, it's way more minimal than just like blow up the house.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not sure about the engine capabilities there, or like how we could do that, but yeah, it's something worth exploring or talking about. Just because it's I see that kind of like as like a cool subtle thing. Yeah. It doesn't make a huge gameplay difference. It's more like, oh, they did that. That's neat. And,
it's like
games are built out of subtle things like
over time, like the map is becoming more scarred, from all the fighting that's going on, so it looks a bit different. I mean, one of my favorite things about Bad Company 2, which is my opinion was still one of the best shooters that was ever made, is when you get done with the map and like literally just fucking destroyed. There's craters everywhere, blown up buildings. It was really, really cool. Yeah.
It's one of the things I really like about this. Like, you got an enemy sniper pinning your team down. You just send an RPG and gone is his cover.
Yeah.
There's no way he's hiding there anymore. Like, it's really good. But that lends itself really well to their rush game mode, because, when you're pushing forward, like the less cover the enemy has. But it's a double-edged sword, because it now means when you get to that point, you know where to hide yourself. Yeah. And, but it was up to your team to decide, what's going to happen there.
All right, I'll move on to the next talking point here. We received some questions about match times as well. Will it be more or less tied to the after mentioned concerns? They're expressed distaste with some matches feeling shorter, some feeling larger, depending on the map size and vehicles. And run for the longer would really be awesome. Or excuse me, utilize vehicles. Run for the longer would be really awesome. Comments, concerns, possibilities on just kind of, I don't know, adjusting the matching, because some people, again, like, a game of firefight can be over like that, or it can last like a long time, and I think that, again, kind of depends on the players.
Right, it's tricky. Firefight is particularly tricky because firefight can last the full length, or it can last, like, as you said, snap of your fingers.
Yeah.
If your enemies aren't aggressive enough, if one of them's, the last one alive is hanging back and sniping instead of capturing an objective and playing the objective, you capture it and that's it. The round's over. So it's really tricky. Like, this is something that we tried to address in one of our recent surveys, where we were like, oh, how does the match length feel? And I think firefight was one of the ones that people felt like was too short. And since then, we actually have raised the round count up a little bit.
That's awesome.
I think now it's 6, and before it was 3 or 4. I'd have to double check on that. But yeah, that's one thing that we're trying to do. Also, with push, like, part of what I was mentioning before with the additional objective was to have it where, by doing that, you extend the round length like a little bit. In our survey, or in our stats based on Insurgency, we kind of took a look and we found that, all right, people like to play push, or they're in a push match for like roughly, I don't know what it was like 6 to 8 minutes, and that's like the sweet spot that we kind of wanted to hit.
Right.
But it's tricky because, like, if we have one extra round, it's too long. If we have one shorter round, it's too short.
Okay. So
it's a matter of, I don't know, it's something that we could still address. Maybe this additional objective that might work out. We'll see how that is.
All right.
But we do acknowledge that it's also something that hopefully we're gonna have community servers, right? And community servers can set the round lengths to whatever.
Yeah, they'll be able to customize it however they please.
But I would like to hear more from people about, like, how many rounds do you think push should be? How many should there be a team switch at all? Like, this sort of thing is stuff that we're trying to gather during the beta and even post-release, really.
Okay.
I like the team switch for push. Seems pretty balanced. You each get a shot at it. But I think adding an extra objective, anyway, it won't really frustrate anyone, because it seems to go, one of two ways. You get stopped after the first or second objective, if you're defending, or if you're attacking, you can steamroll them, and that extra objective just, it adds, you're not really, I don't feel there's any real negative other than, if your attacker's down to your last wave and you've got one more objective to go. But if you're adding, an extra spawn for every objective that you take, perhaps something along those lines, that could improve that. Yeah.
One thing that I really like on push is, like, at the very end, you get to blow up like the weapon cache, kind of like the grand finale. Well, I honestly think it would almost be cool if, like, every single objective had a cache that went with it, and that you could disrupt that and maybe delay the defender's spawn wave, and also possibly give you a wave back. Because one thing I noticed that happens a lot, just at least with push, is that the first objective is just held so well, and the attacking team they literally have no chance to get through and try and get these guys, and they usually get squashed on the first objective. But that's just, I don't know, a little idea, because I like the idea of, because I love being a breacher and I love using the C4 and I love blowing shit up. And so, like, whenever that objective's there, or I'm playing skirmish, like, I always just run and blow up that fuel tank every time. I'm just like, I can throw some CO4 on it and blow that bitch up. It's just, it's fun, and I don't know. I like the idea of, like, almost like an insurgency mode, kind of like squad, where there's just like this cache and you have to go blow it up and they have to defend it, but it's like a secondary objective to the primary, so it's more of like an assist.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. I think with push in particular, the focus of that mode is what's really nice. It's the same thing with the co-op mode, Checkpoint, which I actually forgot to mention earlier, but yes, we have another game mode called Checkpoint, which is co-op, and we also might add more co-op modes in addition to the versus modes I was talking about. But yeah, so I think that one of the nice things about push is that focus. So I'd be hesitant to, like, put another objective in there, because then you get kind of the capture the base problem we had, where it's like, oh, people are splitting up, and what are you doing blowing up the cache? Just capture it and then we'll advance. And, like, now the defenders have to split themselves between two things, or they have the advantage of, like, they could just defend one of those two things, or, like, draw their focus, and the attackers have to work harder to do two things instead of do one thing. However, like, maybe in a new mode, yeah, I do like the idea of splitting the focus, like, a little bit. It just wouldn't be push, I think, necessarily.
Okay. Awesome. Well, you mentioned co-op, so I guess we'll get into that. There was originally a story mode actually planned for the game. What happened with that? Can you elaborate on like why you guys chose to remove that from the game entirely?
Yeah, what we decided is it's still up in the air, but like basically we made a decision. Originally, we just kind of overscoped, bit off more than we could chew. We had a lot of things that we wanted to do, and this included a story mode, and it included this something that we thought would be really compelling. We thought would really grab people. But frankly, like we just as a smaller team didn't really quite have the resources to pull it off. And we determined like, all right, as a company, like we have this audience and they want a solid multiplayer experience, and that's what we like and that's what we want to deliver. That's what we'll take a lot of pride in. It's cool to be experimental and like we want to try new things as a company, but it's just now's not the right time for it, and we have to be considerate to that.
Okay.
It was really unfortunate. Like we didn't want to set people's expectations so high and then have to say, "Oh, sorry guys, we have to think more about this." As of now, it's in a kind of in a limbo state where like we'll consider it post release, but then again, like we have all this other post release content that we still want to do, which I think we'll talk about a little later. So it's more a factor of that and just making sure that we can deliver a multiplayer experience soon, that works for us as a company and works for our players who are eager to play, right?
All right, that makes perfect sense. So the co-op game mode, Checkpoint. In addition to AI, the AI is something that all of us have actually been really impressed by, as they employ some really sophisticated tactics to try and fight, suicide bombers and stuff like that. They flank and suppress.
Those guys.
Yeah, they're little,
terrifying.
they're little bastards.
The phone go off as it comes around the corner.
The phone. Yeah, that was. We knew it had to be a phone if it's going to be a suicide.
Spot on. Absolutely spot on.
Yeah, it's great. So the co-op game mode, it's a lot of fun, and I think it's really cool that you can appeal to a different kind of audience that doesn't just want to go PvP, but maybe they just want to have something a little bit more relaxed with their buddies and just slice some bodies. Do you have any other plans to like further the PvE mode of the game and like further develop that?
We have been talking about other game modes that we'd like to explore, namely some of the ones that we had in Insurgency that people really liked. Again, just talking about it, not sure if we're definitely going to do it, but there's stuff like the Hunt game mode, which was everybody drops in, there's no respawns, you have to kill a certain amount of enemy insurgents because it was as security, and it's at nighttime, and there's night vision goggles and other cool shit, and you also need to destroy a couple weapon caches. Might do some tweaks to that. We might allow respawning. I don't know. It's something we've discussed, but that's one thing, like one mode that we talked about.
Right.
There's also other modes that we talked about, like something involving vehicles more, like an escorting of a convoy, maybe.
Okay.
Again, like this is more conceptual stuff. Right now, I've just been more focused on like the checkpoint experience first, because
I'd really like to see.
Yep.
Bro, I'm sorry. I'd really like to see some of those Dave Infamy co-op versus AI modes put back in, especially like.
Oh, yeah?
You had that one where you had that dynamic kind of mission system where every time you went in, the objectives would change. And that's like one of the things I really like. It's like dynamic objectives, especially in co-op versus AI, because you have to worry about balance or anything like that. Because you're only playing as the security or whatever force. You get to have all these different things every time you go into the map. And that really, like, going back to like how I want like random objectives and like push or something, I think that like that adds a lot of replayability.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's something else I wanted to mention is we announced this like in a blog update a while back. Another mode that we planned was called Operation, and Operation had some of those elements that you described with the randomness and some other cool stuff too that I don't want to say yet, but like we've been playing around with some ideas of like that, of modes that not just from Insurgency, but just like a unique mode that would be really fun in co-op. And yes, a mode that involved more randomness. That wasn't just it wouldn't just be what Day of Infamy was. It would be something else that was a little more still random, but appropriate for the theme, I guess I'll say, is how I would put it.
Okay.
It would be like some sort of like sandbox type area where you sort of more vehicular, like, experience, like having to go different places to the map and different, for different objectives. That'd be something you'd be looking to do.
Yeah, like something more open, you're saying? Like,
yeah. You
Okay.
dropped in, you get like a random objective somewhere on the map. You go do that, it gives you something else to do. So you and your team really need to plan, work together, move zone to zone and complete these things,
Yeah, it's actually, yeah. No, yeah, it's validating to hear you say that, because like that's kind of what we talked about with this Operation mode. Again, like it's still up in the air. We had to tweak it. We don't want it to be too unfocused or too random. But yeah, like the randomness is something that's cool. You know, it makes replayability, it makes risk, it makes you have to adapt and make those decisions. So that's definitely something that we've talked about and would be really cool, especially for co-op, I think, because like as far as gameplay balance goes, like randomizing versus objectives, you know, might be a little tricky. But with co-op, it's more like, all right, we just have to address the situation. The AI is not going to change. We just have to be smart. You know what I mean? Like it's more forgivable in terms of balance.
Yeah, I think it's a good platform for things like that because, you know, we've got our game modes from like Arma 2 and Arma 3 where you've got the co-op, you know, PvE experience, but to have it instant, you know, with you know, what you've done with Sandstorm would be even better. You know, you just jump on 6 of your friends, go jump into that co-op experience, maybe like, you know, between 20 minutes, half an hour, and then you're done. You can move on to your next one. I think that'd be a really good thing. That's something I'd be really interested in.
Yeah, because like you look at all the other tactical shooters out there, Sandstorm's the only one with a dedicated, or Insurgency and Dave Infamy, they're the only ones with a dedicated co-op versus PvE experience that's easy and accessible to jump into. Like Arma, you can do it, and when you do get it running, it's great. But you need community, you need mods. It's a whole, you know, it's a whole story to get Arma 3 co-op going. Whereas like Sandstorm, Dave Infamy, and all those others that you guys put out, it's easy. You just click it and you play.
Yeah, that's the attraction with Sandstorm, you know, over all these other simulation type games.
Exactly.
Get your group of mates and go.
Yep.
We want to be in the middle of the spectrum. Again, like I was saying at the beginning, like we're not too slow, we're not too fast, because we don't want like some co-op modes which is kind of mindless, where it's like, okay, well, I'm just waiting to die in this horde mode or whatever it is. That being said, like there's nothing wrong with horde mode. It's just like for our gameplay, like we want to kind of reinforce a pace and a lethality where it feels like there's risk and you have to be careful and there's some objectives to do or something. Like there needs to be some focus too.
Yeah, those one life objectives really feel more wholesome than, you know, just spamming a death match over and over again. You know, you're trying to look after your one soldier that you have, then it changes the game entirely. Yeah, especially if it's a squad. You know, one of your squad mates goes down, you might be your medic. That's you. You kind of screw over, and you know, it makes you really think about what you have to do. You strategize, and enjoy that.
One of the things that I guess is worth saying though, which is something that I was trying to mention when we talk about game modes, is one of our issues, I think, one of our challenges that we ran into with Insurgency and Dave Infamy was we got a little overzealous. Development-wise, it's easy to make a game mode, right? We don't have to it's not like a weapon or a level that needs like a lot of care, a lot of balance, a lot of attention. You could pretty much just like throw in an objective and throw in some basic rules and you could play, right? So, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be fun, right? So one of the things that we had happen in Insurgency is we had all kinds of different interesting game modes. We had one called Flashpoint where there were 4 objectives, destructible objectives that you had to go around. You had to destroy the enemy caches, but also protect your own. We had another one called Vendetta, where both teams had a VIP that they were trying to kill. So the 2 teams are trying to kill the other team's VIP and protect their own at the same time. We experimented with a lot of stuff like that, but we kind of found like you run into a problem where like you give less attention to the other modes and, you know, the scenarios, the map layouts on those modes. And then you also run into an issue where you kind of split your player base. You run into a situation where it's like, oh, you know, I've got, I'm trying to play with my friends. I want to play push, but, you know, I'm in Australia and it's kind of late and there's not a lot of people playing right now, but there's these 7 different game modes they're all split up amongst. And then I'm just going to stop playing. For that one player to stop playing, like that's dangerous for us, you know?
Yeah, audience dilation. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, you know, I'm not saying like we can't do it. I'm just saying we have to be more careful this time around. There's, and I'd be curious to get your guys' opinion on this. Like, and pardon me, I'm just silencing my phone because it's being really
go ahead.
Vibrating. I don't know if you could hear, but one of the other things, and this again, like we're kind of going back to the versus game mode discussion. People have asked us about like doing a battle royale mode, and like I know that's hot and everything, but it's not really within our plans. And I guess I'm just curious about even the chat or what you guys think, how you feel that would work with our gameplay. Because right now it's something that people ask us, but we're not really sure how we feel about that.
I mean, I like Battle Royale as a genre. I think it's fun. I mean, there's limitless replayability. It's definitely something that's been a bit of controversy around it because it's been so overdone since PUBG came out. Fortnite and all this other crap. But the thing about a lot of those battle royales is that they're kind of just copying each other. Like Rings of Elysium is literally just like PUBG, but with fucking snowboarding and like extreme sports. You know, it's like that's the one kind of unique. Yeah, it's the one unique thing that it has. But there's not really anything ingenuitive or unique about the gameplay. Whereas with you guys have unique tactical gameplay. The animation system, the way you can switch to weapons and all that stuff. You know, combat reloads, retaining reloads. You guys have a very unique tactical gameplay experience, and you guys could take that weapon model and make a battle royale, and it would be fun. People would play it. I guarantee you, people would enjoy it. You had cosmetic progression, all that kind of stuff. I guarantee people would probably enjoy that because at the end of the day, the gunplay is what's very satisfying in the game. The sound's really good. The graphics are great. And it's not really, I wouldn't really be too concerned about the stigma of Battle Royale. It's all about how you make it. Is it fun or not? You know, because Battle Royale, again, as a genre, is a fun genre. People enjoy it. But it's all about how those Battle Royales are done. Like Black Ops just recently came out with their Battle Royale. They're about to come out here pretty soon.
Yeah, I watched you play it, actually, because I was in the beta.
I actually enjoy it. Even though I hate Call of Duty's gunplay. I despise it. However, that arcadey-ass, archaic gunplay is really fitting for a Battle Royale genre. And it's fun. It's just like... It's just a kind of casual experience, but you can, you know, get all competitive if you want. Whereas with Sandstorm, you know, you guys really do have a unique shooting model that's very, very different from all of the games. And I personally wish a lot of games would support a lot of the features that you guys have, like being able to switch through your animation system and like, you know, mag retention and everything like that. I think is so cool. If you guys did want to make a battle royale post-release after you're done making your, you know, finished game, I think the people would love it. And I think that could, you know, spark a breath of life in your game. However, I'm sure you guys want to avoid the, you know, oh shit, we make a battle royale version and now they don't even pay attention to our original game that we made, you know, and that's what has happened. Look at Fortnite. You know, nobody plays the survival mode anymore. It's just about the battle royale because it's free. But I mean, I think it's up to you guys as a team to kind of decide if that's something you want to do. I think battle royale is fun. I think it's a good genre, and if done right, they can be good. However, when they're really redundant and they're just kind of like the same thing, you know, that's usually what gives battle royales a bad rap. But I say leave that up to you guys and finish the game that you're creating first and then work on that, you know, later on down the line, like post-release.
Yeah, and to follow up with that before Ryan and Odd share their opinions, I think I agree. It would have to happen post-release, absolutely. Yeah. We have to, I guess, talk as a team and say, like, is this really within our vision? Is it really worth the resources? Or do we just want to sell our experience? Do we want to add new content, new maps, new weapons, all this other stuff to, you know, do what makes us unique and provide that experience to players, to our audience. So yeah, and I'm open to considering it, but I also like, you know, there's a lot of merit to just what we do.
One random ass idea, just if you guys are going to think about a post-release game mode, I would love to see your guys' gunplay in a survival scenario. In some kind of survival, like open world survival. I think that would be really amazing because there's a lot of really good open world survival games. Like Scum's out. However, I cannot stand the gunplay in that game. I don't like it at all. It's not fun.
Oh yeah, what's it like? Because I haven't actually
so the ballistics are really nice. Like, but it has the archaic, you know, kind of like rounds will just deviate from the muzzle randomly.
Oh,
and
fucking cone of fire, dude! I hate that shit, man.
I'm not a fan.
A muzzle, it's just a barrel, right? It's pointing in one direction. That's why that like there's a little bit of spread in Sandstorm with like pistols at 200 meters because of course there would be like you're not that accurate. Yeah. But yes, no, I totally agree with you. I hate that when games do that.
Yeah, and I don't like that. However, the long range ballistics is really nice. There's bullet drop, travel speed, everything like that. Like that feels great. But you know, I have yet to really see a good survival game that, you know, has really cool and fun tactical gunplay, and you guys have that. And you know, if you guys ever did want to take your shooting model and make a game that's like, you know, more of like a survival hardcore kind of shooter, I think it would be really successful because you guys are, again, your shooting model is 10 out of 10. It's very fucking well done. So if you guys were thinking about another game mode, I'd say fuck Battle Royale. Do something that's a bit different. You know, maybe make like, maybe not like a zombies mode, but, you know, something that's a little bit more survival. Maybe something dystopian like Tarkov, right? Like a dystopian city, you know, it's just kind of chaos. You know, you guys could play around. There's a lot of concepts you could work with.
Yeah. I'd like to see a game where it's more squad-based type sort of BR, but you've got your PvE element. So, you know, it's more of a living world. So, you know, you're making noise as you're taking out people, but make it more objective-based rather than, you know, just wiping folk out waiting on a cloud of death coming in. You know, maybe your squad completes 3 objectives on the map, you guys win. But if you die in the process, you're out of the game. The rest of the squad, it's up to them, you know. And that involves, you know, a survival element and a battle royale like element. Just do something different, you know, like break the mold. I reckon you guys have got like Clean's already said, your game runs really well. The input on your game is fantastic. Everything feels really urgent, and it responds well. Like the UI, everything's great, and that's the shining point of Insurgency, is that you can jump in, you play, everything's nice and urgent. There's no slow reloads or anything like that. Everything feels nice and speedy. I never feel frustrated when I'm playing. I die, I wait 10, 20 seconds, I'm straight back in the game again.
Yeah,
and it's great. It's good. It lifts your mood. But I think having something like Clean said, like a survival element, but more squad based, kind of battle royale, objective based type, I think that'd be something fun.
You should talk to the guys over at the Farm 51. I know they're doing they're doing a battle royale mode. I've been talking with Mitchell a lot, but they're doing a battle royale mode that's objective based, and you guys are an objective based game, so you guys could do battle royale, and you could maybe share some ideas with them, and throw ideas back and forth, because I know you guys are good buddies. I
met them at Gamescom. They're super cool.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
I met them at PAX. Right, the fucking good dudes. I met DeWeed, cool guy.
Okay, what's his role? I'm not sure if I met him.
Is DeWeed? He's one of the project leads, I think.
Okay, I know Mitchell. Like he was talking about me.
Yeah,
he's cool. But yes, no, that's true. Like, and I'm excited actually to try World War III. What is it? October 18th, 19th? It comes out.
Yep.
I think. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think that it's true. And again, like, I mean, I'm just gathering opinions. Like, I don't know if we'll ever talk more about it. But like, yeah, it's a matter of what's in our vision. What do people want to play? What's cool and creative? What works with our pace and our gunplay? Yeah, like I think our game, and a lot of the reasons why games are fun is because they're about risk, right?
Right.
In our game, there's a lot of risk because you could die very quickly, and you can pull off a clutch, and you can succeed very quickly and suddenly. One of the things that I guess that gives me pause about this idea is like our gunplay is so lethal. I wonder if it would almost negate the idea of any sort of health management. I wonder if we'd have to make the weapons a little less deadly. But I don't know. I guess you could still get down.
You could make it dependent on armor, or you could make it where if you get down to a non-headshot, you can get revived. If you get shot in the head, you can't get revived. That's how it works in squad, Or you could, maybe implement it to where you can only get downed if you have the 3-point armor on. So you take some shots at the chest, you have the armor on. Okay, now I'm down, I can get revived. You could play something like that. But it's really just whatever you guys feel is within your guys' vision at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate those opinions, and chat. Thank you as well. Actually wanted to say something before we move on from AI, or to the next subsection of the AI question. I actually reached out to some of our team members about various things in our schedule, and he had some thoughts that he wanted to share about the AI, talking more specifically about how they work and what they do exactly. I'd just like to read them if that's cool. Basically, the AI works just like a player. It has two senses. There's sight and hearing. There's no like invisible information. They don't like automatically know where the players are. They have to either hear you or see you. Otherwise, they won't be aware of you. That could be footsteps. That could be a gunshot. It could be, you poking your butt out from behind cover, or you being, like kind of in the distance, but still a little bit visible.
Right.
Those are the only ways that they're actually visible, rather you're actually visible. In addition to that, they have all these different behaviors. The way they work is they're governed by behaviors, is what we call them, where it's like, capture an objective, to breach that door, throw a grenade into that window, which is something to come. I don't think it's in the current build, but they're going to actually get a lot better at throwing grenades into windows. So, like, people no longer... Yeah, are you ready?
I'm just getting flashbacks to COD 4, just grenades landing right on top of you as you're walking through some alley.
Well, hey, you can throw them back now. You can throw them back. So, remember, as a player, you can always do that. And it's not gonna be too aggressive. Like, if it gets to the point where it's on fun, where counterattacks are impossible, like, we would adjust it. But there's also things like shooting down players. There's flanking. They actually request fire support. They'll even rig caches if there's a cache. Although that wouldn't make sense at checkpoint, but they have that behavior for other potential call-out modes. There's also something called ambushing, where, like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like sometimes you'll enter a room and they'll just be there waiting for you, and they'll just shoot you as soon as you go in through the door. That's something that we also tried to do. We have the level designers set. We call them ambush nodes, like inside of rooms, where they can just crouch there and like watch at a corner or whatever to wait for players to come in. Generally, we kind of had this simplistic approach to the AI. We're like, okay, first capture objectives and hear and see enemies, and then we expanded it to like door breaching and all these other different things. It's a fine line because like we try to strike a good balance. We don't have a difficulty. It's something we might add in the future, but like we really got to set it where like it's not so hard where it's unfun. It's not so easy where it's unfun, right?
Right.
So it's a matter of striking that balance.
That makes sense.
As far as stuff to come in the future, again, like I was saying, there's a big rework to the grenade throwing behavior. They're going to be able to arc them better through not just windows, but also doors. And by the way, Clean, I remember your feedback about the lobbing of the grenades being too poopy. We did fix that too.
Really? I'm going to have to go back and try it. I haven't played Sandstorm in a couple of weeks, so I might have to go. Because remember, you throw the grenade to be like, it just kind of just goes.
Yeah,
like, it's just like the grenade is just like straight up and down, and it's just like, that lands. Also, one thing, I like flash grenades a lot. And one game that recently implemented them in one of the most realistic fashions I've ever seen is EFT. And I play that game all the time. It's my bread and butter. So in the effect right now for the flashbangs in game, it just kind of everything goes white, and then you're good. It goes away. However, IRL, those concussion grenades are actually, if they land near you, what it causes is a massive amount of overpressure, similar to a black bass, but it's non-lethal. This can literally make you shit yourself sometimes, but what would happen in real life is it deafens you, it blinds you, all that overpressure goes around your face, and you really can't feel anything. Even if you didn't see the flashbang and it didn't blind you, you're still totally concussed, and you're just all blacked out for probably like 3 or 4 seconds. However, if you throw the flash grenade, and you see the flash and you're far enough away from it where you don't get hit by the overpressure, but it blinds you, what it actually does, instead of just like having a white flash and you see nothing, what it actually does is it actually burns the bright image of inside of your retina. That's what you actually see. If you watch EFT, they actually did it extremely realistically, is when you see it, it actually burns an image on your screen, and that's simulating your retina being slightly burnt out by that bright ass image. It's no different than like looking at the sun for a while and you kind of blink and you see like the spot. That's what that is. And the EFT does this fucking amazingly well. And I'd like to see the flash grenades kind of enhanced a little bit, because they're kind of lackluster, because you throw them, they go blind for a second, and then they're back to normal, even though, it blew up right next to them, or, they got caught by the flash. It doesn't give a lot of room for players to actually throw it, breach, and then move in, because they only have like maybe a second or two when they're stunned. So
yeah, I'd love to see a buff to flashbangs.
Yeah, I think flashbangs
don't carry a grenade.
Even if it's something as simple, just extending the blind period by like another couple seconds, I think would help out a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, that effect that's in right now is temporary.
Oh, really? Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. That's just something we put in because we were still testing flashbangs and all that stuff. But yes, like in fact, pretty much what you described, maybe not exactly, but pretty similar to what you described, is something I talked to one of our programmers about like 2 weeks ago, I think. 3 weeks ago. Yeah, maybe 3 weeks ago. And we were like, we took a look at some other games. Even Call of Duty like has a similar effect, at least, where the image burns in. And we talked about ways to do that with the flashbangs. And also, design-wise, one of the things, I'm not sure if it's in the live build right now, but we make the flashbangs get thrown a little faster than the other grenades.
Yeah, you did. You pin them faster and you throw it. I do like that, which
exactly
kind of does help out a bit. Helps with that breaching capability, because that's what it's about. It's about you with flash grenades. It's not a defensive thing. It's aggressive. You're using that to clear the room. It's supposed to be quick, which I do like. But if you guys want to look for like the most realistic way that flash grenades were ever implemented in a game, at least in my opinion, check out EFT. Check out how they work. And it's really freaking well done, and definitely take some notes for them if you're again you want to grasp that authentic, realistic effect from your equipment.
Yeah, for sure. No, we want to, we take inspiration from other games all the time, anything really. Yeah. And we can check that out. I'll make a note. And if I look over here, I am making notes.
Yeah,
that's
nice.
That's what I'm doing.
That's actually that's one thing that actually really attracted me to your game initially, is the fact that you guys have like combat reloads, retaining reloads. Like there's not enough games that have that feature. I wish all shooters would have that feature, because that's something that I was trained to do in the military. And like we were just talking about earlier how in squad there's no sense of urgency in the close quarters combat. You got guys 10 meters in front of you, you're shooting, and you're like, all right, I'm out of ammo. All right, let me check, pull it out, put it nice inserted, put a new mag in, check again. All right, close it. All right, we're good to go. There's no sense of urgency, and I love the fact that you as a player can choose to make a hasty decision in the middle of like a fast, combat situation. And I wish more games did that stuff. So
for sure, yeah. Again, it's validating to hear that, because Insurgency, the original, and Dave Infamy always had that, but it was very unclear. Like we didn't have speed reloads; we just had the mag retention, and it was just a question of like, oh, you have 6 mags, and it was like, well, okay, so how full are they? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So this UI element, it was something that I kind of designed and talked to the team about. It was sort of inspired by how SWAT 4 did it.
Right.
If you guys have played that.
Yeah, played SWAT 4.
And that's cool. Yeah. So we had that, and we also decided like, well, you know what? Something we always wanted to do that happens in real life, and like all kinds of other games do it. Ground Branch, Tarkov.
Right.
I think Killing Floor 2 does it. No, Killing Floor 2 does not.
They have like really high
the animation.
Yeah, the animations are like at like 120 FPS or something like that, but that's it.
Yeah, and that's but yeah, like other games do that, and that was something we definitely realized. Like, hey, just double tap R. It feels pretty intuitive.
Yeah.
It's good to hear that you feel that.
No,
way,
I think that should be in every shooter even COD and Battlefield. I feel like that should be a feature in those games. If it's a magazine-fed weapon, I should be able to make the tactical choice to dump that mag on the ground to reload faster. You know,
what am I doing? Like, am I reloading my gun in Call of Duty? Well, not to throw shit on Call of Duty, like they're a faster game, whatever.
That's fine.
But it's like you take the magazine out and you just pull out from your chest this amorphous blob of bullets and magazines.
You got infinite
it's
mags.
Just always full, you know, like whatever.
And that's just really a casual experience. But you know, you guys are making a game that's for a mature audience. You know, it's for people like me, like Boz, like Karma Cut, people who know about how a lot of this shit works, and we want to feel that simulated into a game. You know, we don't want to be like 7.62 ammo. This is 7.62 ammo for all of the guns that are 7.62. You know, that's just like kind of arcadey stuff that people do enjoy. And it's more of a casual experience, but you guys, again, you're tailoring this like kind of like in between, like, you know, tactical and casual, and you guys are finding a good balance.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we're going for.
All right.
Did you ever play? Sorry, real quick anecdote.
Yeah,
Did you ever play? And this might be an obscure one. I'm actually curious if anybody in the chat has even heard of it. Firearms for it was a mod for Half-Life 1 called Firearms.
Yeah.
And yeah, you remember that? Cool. Yeah, they actually had a button called. They had mag retention, I'm pretty sure, but they also had a button called Merge Mags. So your guy would just like put his weapon away, and you hear like a and then all of a sudden you'd like pull it up and like, oh, all my mags are all topped up. How nice.
Nice.
I appreciated the acknowledgement, but I did think that was a little silly.
Yeah. So moving on, so character progression. You know, right now you guys just have like cosmetic aesthetic progression. Are there any plans for like, you know, future progression mechanics, like, you know, weapon skins, you know, different looking attachments, you know, something along those lines? Do you guys have any, like, what kind of plans you guys have mainly for progression? Because we know about all the cosmetics right now.
Let me just quickly say, because I'm reading something in the chat. One of my close friends just passed the bar. So congratulations, Matt. That's awesome. I just want to give him that shout out. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So the character cosmetics, yes. I think as far as what we have planned, we definitely want to do more cosmetics, but I think one of the things we always have to be careful about in a game that's so realistic, in a game where the HUD is so minimal, is character recognition, right? Like it's easy to see something in Insurgency and want to shoot it because, you know, like if you take a quarter of a second longer to make your decision, you might die.
Right. So
we've been really, I guess, we tried to be very diligent about making sure that you always can tell immediately when you see a humanoid figure, like, okay, that's an insurgent because they have this color or this color, because they have this, this shamag or mask that covers their entire face. And similarly, oh, that's security because they've always got camouflage on and they always have some sort of weird head shape. So like we definitely want to add more cosmetics, and that stuff, you know, it would be free. But we also want to make sure it's still within our aesthetic. And so it's two things, I guess, realistic, but also doesn't hurt the character recognition.
No, that's
one of the things
huge.
we've been talking about. Yeah, one of the things we're talking about now is like, and this existed in Insurgency. Again, I don't know if you guys have any opinions, but like T-shirts for the security. That'd be pretty cool, right? It would look cool. It would look a little more special operations-y, I guess, even a little contractory, if that's the narrative you're projecting.
Right.
So,
well,
I don't know.
My suggestion for PID, because that's something that, you know, a lot of games struggle with, and like games like Squad, like I wish fucking Squad had cosmetic progression. It would make that game so much more interesting, but they're kind of stuck on the fact that they want to be like a simulation of actual soldiers. You have to wear a specific uniform. You know, you can't really customize it that much, and that's the help with PID. But one thing that you guys could do is colors are huge. So like most of like the darker coyote, olive green, all of those kind of military colors, those could be limited to PMCs. Then you could have like, you have more colorful stuff like civilian colors for, the insurgents, and you guys could limit the amount of colors so that way PID could literally just become that of a form of a color. At the very beginning when people are level 1, all the insurgents are wearing blue, so it's really easy to tell who's a PMC, who is not. All of the contractors and stuff, they got military camo on. They're all green. They got all these different kind of camouflage patterns that the insurgents would definitely not have, and that kind of helps with the PID.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is important to us. And like, if we did add, just as an example, t-shirts, it would keep the olive drabs, or I guess greens, including olive drab, and then the tans, it would stay within that color stuff. We just also, have to be careful about silhouette. Like, I want to do all kinds of stuff. I want like full-on face masks for the security to wear with the helmets. I want compression shirts. I want all kinds of stuff like that. We just have to be careful. It's a matter. We'll feel it out. We'll see what happens, and it works narratively because honestly, like we want players to project their narrative onto this. Like, who are the insurgents? Who are the security? It's up to you. Like, if it's a PMC, as you say, if you're a domestic special forces soldier from the actual country, if you're a foreign one, if you're a militia member, whatever.
So you can kind of create.
That's why we have all these camouflages. Yeah, we did a lot of interviews with, like, I got to interview people who actually fought in the Peshmerga or fought
that's awesome.
in the YPG or whatever. Like, it was really interesting to hear some stories. Like, obviously, we're not trying to do anything sensitive. We're not trying to do anything political, but we did want to do research. We wanted to inspire our fictional conflict that exists in the game.
And it's cool that you have female fighters too. You have the female Kurdish fighters, and there's women who are fighting right now. I think that's really
cool. And like, honestly, we've gotten like, you believe it or not, we've gotten shit about that.
I'm sure, people, but even though it's historically accurate, but people are still get all upset about gender.
It's like, well, look, here's the thing. Personally, as a gamer, I understand that. Like, I see certain fiction, whether it's movies or games or whatever, and I think, oh, you're just checking boxes. You're trying to appeal to as many audiences as you can, and you're sacrificing your aesthetic to do it. But like, it makes sense in our game. We also have, so obviously we take a lot of inspiration from current Middle Eastern conflicts right now, like 2014 and onward. And given that like time frame in those countries, like we have Americans in the game, American special operations. I'm pretty sure there's been more female fighter deaths than there have been American special operations, right? Yeah. Nobody bats an eye at that, right? Yeah. So that kind of stuff bothers me because I sympathize with their sentiment, but they're being unfair. It's basically my
I think it's just.
Yeah, go ahead, Karma.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Karma, go ahead.
I think it's just an unfortunate time to have women fighters in the game, just with Battlefield 5 and all these other games. You're just getting caught up in this whole mess. Because I'm sure if you did it way before any of this trending and it was like, accurate and everything like that, you wouldn't have caught any heat or anything.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just a question of the times. Like, we're confident in our decision. Like, we're going through with it. Obviously, it's fine. I just wish that more people. I wish those people were on board because I really get it. Like, I really get it as a gamer even. But yeah, it's okay. It's a matter of just aesthetic. And one of the things that these, aside from that, one of the things that we were told and like we saw in our research, we got to watch footage and saw some kind of secret stuff too, was people just wear whatever. Like, there's just like Swedish camouflage and like guys dressed up in all black, like the Iraqi special operations dudes. And it's really interesting just how junky it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very interesting conflict. And we wanted to take some of that inspiration and put that into the game and into the security forces specifically.
Fantastic.
One of the other things I think I wanted to say, there might have been one other note, excuse me, about the AI. I just wanted to check. Oh, yeah. So the counterattack behavior has also changed a little bit. In Checkpoint, you capture an objective, and sometimes randomly, the enemy will say, oh, we're going to try to counterattack you, and we're going to try to take that back. So you have to defend, some cool music plays, and you have this moment where you have to defend with your team or die and then start all over again. We've been reworking that a little bit because it was basically like people were, I guess they were just kind of camping in the building when they should have been. And they should have not been able to do that, I guess you could say. So that ties into the grenades, but also throwing Molotovs in and trying to burn you out or smoke you out or whatever. We also addressed the way that bots go in through doors, so they're actually better at breaching now. I'm not actually sure if they were breaching beforehand. I think now that's a recent behavior. But anyway, yeah, aside from that, we're looking into making other tweaks. If we did night maps, something we're exploring, we'd also make the AI act appropriately in that, flashlights and NVGs and visibility and whatever. So there's still stuff that we're looking to do with AI. We're going to keep tweaking it. I see somebody in the chat.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, man. Go ahead.
I just see somebody in the chat saying M90 Desert Land. I'm not familiar with that camouflage. We have a lot of fucking camo, but we're totally open to adding more.
Yeah,
I think
touching on the camouflage and stuff. Clean mentioned like weapon skins and stuff as well. Is that something you guys are planning?
Yeah, sorry. Weapon skins is something that we have talked about. It's a matter of like figuring that out resource-wise, I guess, but also like keeping it within a realistic aesthetic. Obviously, we're not going to do like
blue fucking
and
dragons and like Counter-Strike shit. Keep it tactical, keep it realistic. I mean, you could check, do research. Like there's, you know, people in Afghanistan who will customize their AKs and make them look kind of tribal. You know, you got desert, you know, snake print, you know, multiple different Cerakote camouflage patterns that would be realistic and kind of make the gun look a lot cooler. You could even do the same thing with the optics. One thing that I love about World War III is the level of customization they have in the guns is fucking incredible. You can literally Cerakote each individual part of the gun, the buttstock, the grip, the lower receiver, upper receiver, barrel, or just even the optic if you wanted to. So having some options like that could be pretty sweet.
Exactly, and that's all, like, fortunately, we have plenty of room, you could say. There's plenty of things that we could do to these weapons. Not just, like, camouflage, but also, like, you know, a two-tone Mark 18 or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of stuff we could do. Or, like, a black AK-74.
Even a golden AK, you know? Like, yeah, you know, that still would be, you know, somewhat realistic, you know? Because, like, people do have fucking golden AKs. You know, it would also be cool to see, like, maybe... you know, a mastery almost of weapons. So say you have 74, AK-74, just wood stock, and you get the next level of it. It's a 74M. It's the more modern version. So it's plastic handguard now. It's black. And then you could put another upgrade on top of that, and you could make it like the Zenit, you know, Alpha AK. It's just all cosmetic, but it looks a lot cooler. But it has like the tactical rails and, you know, Picatinny sights and stuff. It would literally be the same gun, but just an upgraded version of that with cooler skins. So say like M4A1, or you could, you know, have the standard just M4 with a typical plastic handguard, right? And then it could upgrade, you know, has like, you know, I don't know, different. It just turns into a better version of the gun, but it's still the same thing. You know, maybe you could do that from, you know, even with a 1911.
Medal of Honor Warfighter had something like that, where like if you got to your maximum rank, you know, like your top level, you got like a specific skin for the gun. It made it look more rustic, you know, like, you know, wrapped around the donkey dick grip, they call it on the AK-74. Yeah, and you know, the sling wrapped around the stock to make a nicer cheek weld, that sort of thing. And
yeah,
it made you feel like you'd accomplished something. You know, your character looked different from everyone else's because you put more time into the game.
Like even like the SVD, you could go from just like wooden SVD. Then like a more black tactical SVD with like polymer furniture, and then the last level of the SVD could be the SVD-M, which is actually a different gun, but it's only just slightly different, as a different gas system. It still looks like an SVD, but it's just a lot more modern. Or even like you could go even further, making like an AK-12 or something, like be the master for the AK, and you could do the same thing with the AKMs, because there's the AK-103s and 105s, which have like shorter barrels and stuff, and they just look cooler. You know, they're more tactical. You know. And I could even show you tons of examples of like different variations you could make of the same kind of weapon, like even the especially like the FAL. You know, you could, you know, have a standard FAL, then you could turn it into a DSA FAL with like a cool quad rail on it. You know what I mean? And you could just like, it would be like a cosmetic progression for the guns as well. But you know,
you got that Rhodesian FAL too, right?
Yeah. You could. There's so many different like variations of the same guns that you have in the game that you could upgrade. You know, even like the G17 that you have in the game, it could be just like your standard black one. Then it goes, you know, Cerakote, you know, desert tan, and then you could get like some cool like custom, you know, like cut slide, you know, from like Agency Arms or something on one of the guns in there, and that would be like the final form of that, you know, cosmetic progression for the gun. Or like,
right, yeah, this is
I was gonna say then also maybe the PKM. The upgrade of that would be the PKP, which is just the better version of that. And then, you know, you could, you know, play around with it as many ways as you possibly could, you know, because I think it'd be cool to like, you see a guy with like a really dope gun, you're like, oh fuck, that guy knows how to use that. Like he's killed a lot of people with that gun. Then you see a guy just there with his normal AK with wood on it. He's like, oh, he's new. You know, you got those visual identifiers for players.
Oh, he's a Smurf,
yeah.
Yeah.
Smurf.
I think a Smurf.
Yeah, you know, like a really good.
Yeah, they're all blues. They're all blue people.
Oh, yeah. Like World of Warcraft. Okay, got you. That's my RPG frame of reference. Yeah. That introduced me to the color coding, and yes, we did call them Smurfs. Yeah. So That's true. Yeah, that's definitely something that we want to explore. The extent of it is something, we have to determine, but there's a lot of things that we can do. It's true. Sometimes it's like, do we actually want to make a new weapon altogether? But other times it's like, this could just replace it. In fact, like in Insurgency, we had a lot of stuff on our workshop, and one of the biggest things was weapon replacements. People would take the MP5K and they would say, like, you know what, same stats, MP7, slightly different iron sights, whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Make it an MP7, or even, and like whatever, it's a 30-round mag, but who cares? It's just cosmetic. And now that was just client side. So you can't do it with you wouldn't have enemy players see that, or other people on the server. There's another, I forget which it was, but it was actually how we hired our current first-person weapon animator, Mr. Brightside, or Ben Turtel. He made an ACR out of our, I think it was the M4 or the Mark 18 that we had in Insurgency. And we were like, wow, this animation's pretty good. This gun's cool. You want to work for us? He's been with us ever since.
That's funny. There's something you could add. So the upgrade of the M4A1, the max level of progression for that, same stats, it would just be an ACR instead. And the animations would pretty much handle exactly the same. So you don't have to make new animations. Maybe like little, details with the weapons and stuff, little levers and whatnot. But for the most part, like the animation scheme would be pretty much the same because it's the same weapon platform. Like I said, you go from a PKM to a PKP, even though they look completely different, they're similar in a lot of ways. They still function and handle the same fucking way. They're no different. They just look different.
Right.
Just a different model.
And yeah, that's true. Yeah. On the one hand, like I think we're more likely to explore skins because of the resources that we have, at least initially. But also, one of the things that we kind of want people to do themselves is to get on the workshop just like they could before. Like that's something that we are exploring as well, even with the characters. And even though, like, again, we're still talking about it, but like this kind of undermines our weapon cosmetics or character cosmetics, right? Because why would I go to unlock this thing if I could just subscribe to it on the workshop and now I'm that? And the reason why is because it's just client side. So maybe that's okay. Maybe that's something that we can allow. We have to check with the engine. We have to see what we think as a team, if it's that much of a disincentive, you could say, if that's a word, from actually unlocking this stuff. But yeah, like it's something that we definitely want to encourage people to do, is to customize their experience in that way. And yeah, maybe even these other, I guess, more obvious total model upgrades you described.
Right.
And speaking of the Alpha AK, I do want to say, like, that's something that we're looking into adding for release as a separate weapon.
Oh, sweet. Dude, I hope you do, because I fucking love that gun.
It's badass. I'm more of an AR-15 dude myself, aesthetically, but I acknowledge the Alpha AK looks pretty cool.
I'm an AK fanboy myself. I'd love it too if you guys want to do me a huge favor, add an AS Val or a VSS to the game. 9x39.
Oh, one of those, yeah.
9x39.
What a weird gun.
It's a really specific gun. It dominates in close quarters, but it's just a subsonic round. Like, people think the 9x39 round is like a 9mm. Well, it is, but it's not. It's bigger than an AKM round. It's just subsonic. So it has, like, it's super quiet, and it's like the VSS Ventura is his nickname. Ventura is his bolt cutter because it's meant to basically penetrate armor in a very short distance because they have like ammo with carbide tips on it. And it's so fucking quiet. It's like a deadly fart, but it can only really effectively go up to like maybe 100 meters. Other than that, like if you're trying to shoot anything further than that, you're gonna have a hard time hitting them. And I think it could be a really cool gun to add in Sandstorm. And the animation scheme would pretty much be the same as the AK. They handle the exact same way. They're just slightly different.
Yeah, that could be good. Like that's kind of why we have the advisor class. We want them to have the weird exotic weapons that are expensive.
And that would be like a Ventura's or a Val or something, or even like a Groza could be cool.
Let me ask you, what do you think would be a good counter to that for the security?
For the security?
P90.
P90
badge or something.
P90.
P90.
P90 is funky. Yeah.
I would say P90, or 300 Blackout Honey Badger would be pretty badass.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I love that gun. That's, what? I think
it's internally suppressed as well.
Yeah,
it's
it
matches subsonic. The Val quite well.
It'd be the equivalent.
That's like, I definitely like that. For some reason, I just really appreciate the aesthetic of that gun.
It's a sweet gun. Cool. Yeah, no, that would honestly be like the legit, like if you compare those two guns side by side, they'd perform pretty similar. Be honest.
Isn't the 300 Blackout a larger round than
the no, number 39 is actually bigger in diameter, but 300 Blackout is more comparable to like 7.62x39, but I believe it's subsonic, so
subsonic.
It's going to travel slow, so it would perform similar to that of 9x39, but it is a smaller round.
Cool. All right. Yeah, no, it's another idea. I'll make note of that. We want to do post-release content, and that would include weapons, right?
Yeah.
We already have weapons we're not talking about yet. We have plans, but
nice.
That's a good idea. It's an interesting idea.
Sweet. All right. So moving on to one thing that I personally, this was my only real complaint about Sandstorm, to be honest, is the third-person animations and the player models. We've gotten a lot of feedback in the past in the community and in inner circles about the player models and for their third-person animation counterparts. Like the first-person animations are so good, they're so well done, they feel like they have weight, they're extremely immersive, but when players are looking at their people fighting to their left and to their right, the models just kind of don't add up to the first-person model. You know, the animations when they're running just seem very stiff and clunky. They don't really seem like they're moving fluidly in the environment with weight. They just kind of feel like they're there, and just like their general polygons and kind of layout for their models just kind of again, it doesn't really add up to the quality of the first person. And what kind of steps are you guys doing right now to improve upon, you know, the animation system as well as the player models overall fidelity?
Right. Yeah, I'm actually glad you asked this question, because you're right. Like, this is something a lot of people gave us a lot of feedback on, where they were saying like, "Oh, these characters animation, like your first person is beautiful, and then I look at these characters and the facial expressions are weird, or the skin looks really bright, or whatever." And I think there's a variety of things that we're doing to tackle this. To start, I think, it's really important to first establish that a lot of the animations that are in now are temporary. Like, we're still working on a lot of that stuff. And that's something that we maybe didn't do a great job at communicating, but that's just kind of like part of what the beta is, and realistically what we had to deal with. And again, part of the reason why we had to delay the game into December.
That makes sense.
Is a lot of that stuff is temporary. Also, it's not just about the animations. I think it's also about like the overall character fidelity, which I guess what I mean by that is just like the characters physically, without moving, looking good. Yeah. And that's something else I reached out to in preparation for this. I reached out to our lead character artist to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that he's done. Not just this, but including this, I guess. He's worked on did a huge pass of all the textures, all the skin, all the textures of every single piece of clothing and gear in the game. Has had like some eyes swept over it and some work done on it. So the textures of things are going to look better. One of the things that we are also doing with that, it's not in yet, but is basically it's kind of like a system where dirt and blood are going to be. I think we're talking about making it dynamic.
Yeah, so like as you're playing in the match, you're gonna get more, like you get shot and you get dirty. I like that. So your character seems like, oh man, this guy's been fighting for a while. He looks like he's seen some shit so far.
Yeah, exactly. This guy's having a bad day, right? He's covered in dirt and blood. But now again, like, we want to make that dynamic. I can't say for sure we're gonna do that, but we want to do that.
Okay.
If not, then it's just gonna be dirt and blood on your body. Yeah. And that'll just be, to help decide. There's always going to be dirt and blood, right? Nobody's got perfectly faded blue jeans in that environment. Also, we've adjusted some of and this includes the skin too, by the way, like the skin textures. We also adjusted some of the proportions of the 3D models. Our characters, as a lot of people pointed out, they were pretty thin. Yeah. And like one of the and this was something like within our direction from the get-go. I was like, okay, it's realistic. It's not Gears of War. A lot of these people are going to be indigenous fighters. Right. They're not going to be like huge hulking masses. They're not going to be chunky like a Quake game, but we don't also, they can't be super scrawny. Like, they have to be healthy looking. Yeah. Right? They're still players. So one of the things we did is kind of thicken up our characters a little bit.
One thing I actually will say, though, one thing that you guys could do with the Insurgent models as well as the PMCs is make them physically, like their shape and their body, make them physically look different per faction. So the PMCs, a little bit more meaty, a little bit more buff, army looking guys, and obviously you have the females. And then for the Insurgents, you can make them a little bit more slim, because they're not just trained soldiers, they're just regular people, probably like picked up some guns and they've been kind of training like on the underground or whatever. So that could actually help with the PID that you mentioned earlier in the podcast. I just thought I'd mention that.
Exactly. No, it's true. Yeah. And that is part of not to cut you off, but yes, that is something that we did want to do. And we did do the security. We beefed them both up. I believe the security is a little beefier, but we kind of accomplished that more with the clothing they wear, which is just going to be a little baggier, but also the gear. Like the gear, just for instance, like the backpack for the security looks kind of like Velcroed on. Now it kind of hangs a bit. Okay. Same thing with the pouches and everything. It was all just kind of slapped on. So it's coming out a little.
One thing I would like to see too is equipment on the character's back. So if I see a guy with an RPG, I would like to see that RPG on his back, and when he's moving, the backpack and the gear that is on his body is kind of like moving a little bit. It's moving on his body. That kind of helps add a little bit of the animation and help you know, when I'm looking at somebody, I see a guy with an RPG on his back, like I can see, you know, I can see the weight of him kind of like as he's walking, you know what I mean? And another thing I just kind of want to mention, kind of going back to cosmetic progression, I would love to see cosmetic unlocks for armor. You know, and what I mean is like you have the level 1 point and then you have the 3-point armor or 2-point armor. Being able to choose different kinds of vests for each of those levels of armor. So if I choose my armor, I can unlock and have like different chest rigs that I can just choose from cosmetically. It's still the same armor, however, it just looks different. You know, I think that could be a cool little addition because I know you guys just have, you know, the 1-point, 2-point armor. So it'd be cool to have like multiple different vests you could choose from that are just purely cosmetic, and even maybe able to change the camo on those too.
One of the things with the camo specifically, we did want to keep it to those colors because again, of character recognition.
Of course,
we wanted people, or tan security, black insurgent, because that's how we wanted to have their gear.
Right.
But I agree with you. Like we could explore some more customization. Also, one of the things we're exploring is doing patches, where you can put a patch like on your chest.
Okay,
put a patch on your back.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. You can even put a patch on your grind plate. I made sure to make sure the grind plate had a Velcro patch on it, so you can just put a big, I don't know, D on there or something. I don't know. There's a lot of good humor patches, as you guys know. But that's one thing we're exploring. Post-release, we have to figure out the system and figure out what exactly those patches would say. But there's a lot of opportunities, as long as it's not too silly or airsofty, if you know what I mean. Like we don't want anything too outrageous or civilian-looking, I guess.
It makes sense.
But also, what you say about RPGs, that is something that I believe we had in Insurgency, and we do also have in Insurgency Sandstorm, is the launchers on the back.
Yeah.
That's something we want to have. It'll bounce a little bit. And also, excuse me, we have I've been calling them like doodads. We want to flesh out the gear a little more by putting stuff on it. So like tourniquets and maybe like an IR beacon or like a carabiner and like all these other things. 'Cause right now the gear is just very simple. It's just like mag pouches and a utility pouch, which is fleshing out.
Yeah, you kind of differentiate between the different classes, like a breacher's maybe got, say, pipe cars or something. Like,
that actually that would be really cool. I'd like that, like, you know, like visual differences between the classes.
One of the things, that's true, one of the things the way our system works presents a bit of a challenge with that, where it's according to your armor level, we say, and your carrier level. So like if you have no carrier light armor, it's one thing. If you have no carrier heavy armor, it's one thing. So there's 9 different combinations.
Right.
And we wanted to do something unique for each one of those combinations, plus another 9 for the other team. So we have to be conscious of that. As far as like class specific stuff, like that's something we could explore maybe post-release, because I agree, like a breacher it would be nice if a breacher looked like a breacher, but at the same time, like, you know, we can't give them a hat, right? Because we want people to wear whatever hat they want. So it's a bit tricky.
It'd have to be like specific to like maybe the plate carrier or like the level of the armor, you know, whether or not if they're bringing in a bunch of mags or little mags. There's a lot of, like you're saying, there's a lot of different variations. So trying to create variations within the classes would take, it seems like it would be, it would definitely take some time, but it would be pretty cool.
Yeah. No, it's true. And that's, you know, that's like more of a post-release thing. Right now, we're just going to make those 9 or like, I guess, 18 different levels to be more fleshed out, better, I guess you could say. In addition to that, we just did a lot of optimization stuff. Like we optimized the materials where like now it's only, I think, like 1/10 of our draw calls that we had before, because everything's on the same material, everything's on that same mesh together.
Right.
That's going to be coming in soon, but we're already in the process of doing that. Also in the process is morph targets, which basically means like an easier way to shift something. Like, you know, we have like the female characters, they have hijabs on sometimes, and we morph targeted the helmets so you could fit them on top of the hijab, right? I believe that's already in game.
Yeah, no,
but we also want to do morph targets. Okay, cool. Yeah. We also want to do morph targets for the character faces. So like, if you're getting shot at, you know, if you get suppressed, your character's going to wince. Your character's going to blink and get angry. If you're actually shooting, your character's face would kind of look like they're shooting.
Well, one thing that would be cool is if you get flashed, your guy puts his hand up, or his left hand up, so he still has his gun here, but he's like, oh, fuck. Like, so like if you go in a room, you'd be like, oh, he's flashed, I'm going to kill him. Yeah. You know, you have a visual.
That's something we did talk about. It's a little tricky because, like, again, like, at least for release, we have to be really conscious about our art and our animation stuff. Like, we delayed to make the game run better, but like post-release, that would be cool. animation wise, I think it would be possible. It would be a good amount of work. And yeah, I guess you have the caveat where like you can't ADS while you're flashed, but maybe that's okay.
But that would be the negative effect. Like you can, you're shooting with one arm, you have a little bit more recoil, or maybe you just don't even touch it because you can't aim. Just leave it as is. And it's just really a visual indicator. Your guy's just kind of putting his hand in front of his face, maybe moving around, but his gun's right here. But if I go into a room and I flash it, I can easily see, oh, hey, that guy's flashed. He can't really see right, so I'm gonna shoot him. Whereas if you get flashed, the guy's still sitting here just like this, still has his gun up just fine. You don't really know how affected he is.
It's true, yeah, and we do have voiceover to indicate it, but maybe that's not enough. And it would be good to have a visual, and it would be good for the gameplay, where like, you suffer in other ways aside from just having the visual thing happen, the audio thing happen. However, like we also have to be conscious of like taking control away from players. You always have to be careful with that.
Yeah, that's really frustrating. I agree with that, especially this type of game. If they do get flashbanged and they can't return fire, take that snapshot. Even though they're blind, you might be able to gun someone down that flashed you.
Yep.
Taking that opportunity away is really frustrating for a game like this.
Right. Now in some ways, that's true. That's very true. In some ways, this is okay. Like, for instance, we want to do something where when you're sprinting and you turn, you slow down a little bit. Just because you have that.
Well, it's momentum and inertia.
The momentum, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. We also have it where if you get shot, you're going to slow down a bit. It's for gameplay. There's things that it's okay to take control or like restrict the player's movement or whatever. This is like one of those possibly contentious issues design-wise where it's like, oh, is this too much? It looks really cool. It's a good indicator for the enemy who's trying to kill you. But I don't know. We'd have to discuss it. I do think it's a good idea, and I did actually discuss it.
Being on the middle ground, like you said, between your sort of COD and your armor, then introducing like a light version of those features definitely does help slow the gameplay down a bit, because this isn't a deathmatch,
No.
So you can't run around like a lunatic and get away with it, because
True.
You get punished really quick, and that's how it should be. So I think that's a fine mechanic. You run in full sprint, someone shoots you, it should slow you down. I agree with that.
Exactly.
I think
yeah. And that was in Insurgency as well. And like, we've also gotten feedback about some people saying like, oh, the game's so damn fast. Like, why don't you slow it down? And it feels like Call of Duty. And like, I understand. I wouldn't agree with that, but I do understand where they're coming from. Where there's certain things, little things we need to do that make a big difference, like getting slowed down when you're shot, like tweaking the armor a little bit, like tweaking the armor movement speed at the heavier weights, not just with the armor.
Takes you a bit longer to aim down sight once you've been sprinting, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's another thing we were actually just talking about. We tested it where we tied the ADS time into your stamina, but it didn't feel that. It could work, except in our game, like our HUD's pretty minimal,
right?
And as it was too hard to know like when am I going to have slow ADS.
That makes sense.
The game, as a player, I'm encouraged to play really aggressively, to get on the play as fast as possible, sprint right over there, and then I'm immediately punished,
right?
Because I'm ADSing slow and I make entries. So,
well, I mean, with you guys, you do have to find a good, I guess with your guys' vision is you guys are trying to be in between, like something like Arma and then fucking COD, where it's in the vision to make sure you're balancing gameplay with realism here. It's funny, we have the gameplay versus realism discussion all the time in the Tarkov community. And the vision of Tarkov is to be this realistic battle simulator. So certain things like that, could fit into the vision of the game because it is realistic and that's what would happen in real life. However, this is not the same vision, of course, and you guys do have to balance these things out to make it feel right.
What's your opinion on that, Karma? Like with the whole stamina thing?
I think Tarkov does a really good job of it, but that's because you can, see and keep track of it. Squad does a lot of stuff regarding stamina as well, but they also have an indicator. I do like how Sandstorm is really minimalistic, just because I've even like messed around, because I know you guys put in the last patch an ability to remove everything from the HUD, like everything, and that's a whole nother experience. But I do think like if you don't have that indicator, it's really hard to get a feel visually or just through the game of how much stamina you have left.
Yeah, we can be a little vague, because another thing.
Why not just add player breathing? If your guys don't
at the end.
Well, yeah, no, we do. It's just a matter of like, it's not binary, right? It's not like slow ADS and fast ADS.
Okay.
We want a gradient, because that's how the gradient. There's gradients to suppression. There's gradients to damage, obviously. And with those, like, we can have it be vague. We can have it be like, Dave Infamy. Your screen got Dave Infamy is, for those who don't know, our World War II shooter we released in 2016. 2017. we made it where, like, whenever you get damaged a little bit, you get a little desaturated. If you get really damaged, it's like black and white. You can't see shit because you're in incredible pain. And that was something that we tried to do to make it, you know, subtle and a gradient, but like not exactly like you have 11 health, you have 89 health.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of like striking the balance. Same thing with suppression, you know. And we could be a little vaguer with those, but with ADS time, it's like, I don't know, it's so critical, and the game's, again, like medium fast anyway. So we're trying a new thing. The new thing we're trying that we're exploring is it's tied to weight. If you're a real heavy dude or dudette, then you're gonna ADS a little slower.
Yeah. If you're,
now, it's not gonna be too
thought
much,
about making it dependent on weapon type too? So like SMGs versus assault rifles versus sniper rifles versus DMRs versus LMGs. You know. Yes,
definitely. It's, you know, not for every single thing, but like certain cases. For instance, MGs should be slower ADS because like M249 is like 20 pounds, right? Yeah. Like.
You don't shoulder if you guys are being totally realistic with the M249 is you don't shoulder that, you only use it on a bipod, or if you're resting it on something, or if you're prone. There's only rare situations where you're really just going to use that to suppress when you're shooting from the hip, and let alone even shoulder the fucking thing, because trying to hold that thing up is pretty difficult. I've shot him in real life. So.
What was your MOS actually? I'm just curious.
1371 combat engineer. Okay, I did a lot of machine. Like what's funny is like I'm a combat engineer, and whatever your job is kind of dependent on where you're stationed. And for me, we're a combat logistics battalion, so we did a lot of construction. I fucking hated that shit. However, I did a lot of shooting. I did a ton of machine gun courses, and you know, a lot of like counter mobility and IED courses and stuff, which is kind of fitting into the role of that of a combat engineer. And so we got a lot of time behind a lot of MGs, heavy, medium, and light. So it's I agree. Like M249, you know, you shouldn't be able to shoulder that thing pretty easily. It's not, not an easy thing to do.
And in fact, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Node. They put out a video recently.
I don't know.
Yeah, they put out a video of them playing Sandstorm, and D was just fucking. He's a really cool guy. Like we've met them a bunch of times. They're super cool. I actually did a bunch of videos of our zombie mod for Insurgency with them. Oh, it's so fun. Like years ago. But look that up. It's really fun. But yeah, he was like shredding it with the M249, and we were talking about it on the team. We're like, we really gotta turn up the recoil for that thing, because like people were using it like it was an assault rifle with heavy recoil.
Yeah,
you know, it was too much. So yeah, we also made that adjustment. You know, it's a gameplay. Like this ties into the discussion of gameplay versus realism. Gameplay always overrides realism. Like at the end of the day.
Sure.
But it's always a balance. Realism for us is an aesthetic choice, obviously, but also a starting point, you know, and then we go from there. So yeah, like we're cool with people ADSing with an M249, even though it's unrealistic, it's kind of wacky, but it's gonna be penalty to it. So it's a balance, you know. You know, I guess for a game like Arma, it's less of a balance really. They're more overt about how they want to be simulation-y.
Right. So moving on here, going to vehicles like static weapons and fortifications. Do you guys have any plans to like basically enhance maps, say with like dishcoms, you know, AA guns, like we were talking about, maybe player built fortifications, maybe like a new class, like a combat engineer whose job is to build fortifications and sandbags, you know, like you know, he throws sandbags down, hits a shovel, kind of like a squad. How you do it there, except that there could be like a squad roll to kind of cut off certain choke points. Maybe this guy could even set up machine guns or something like that during a match. Do you guys have any plans to kind of, you know, add any kind of systems like that?
It is something that we've heard before, and in fact, there's even somebody who made a mod in Insurgency that did this. It was really funny because it was like the source engine and he used source mod. So like you'd run out into the street and say like, "Should I need cover?" And you just like poop out a HESCO barrier in front of you that was like 10 feet tall, and it's like, good, we're covered. That is something that we've been asked about, but honestly, personally, like I'm a little skeptical about it because I'm not sure if it's to the pace of our game.
It makes sense.
Yeah, especially with the levels we have. Like as I was saying, like with our destructibility stuff, like the level design's really I don't want to say like sacred, but like it's really important. It's really
map
subtle,
design
you know?
and the game modes go hand in hand. You don't design the map without the game mode in mind or the amount of players in mind. You know, that's actually one of the biggest issues with Tarkov at the moment is, you know, player spawning, map design, and player count. You know, there's a lot of conflicts, you know, people spawning close to each other and stuff like that. So ensuring that you're balancing out your map design with your game modes and the amount of players that are going to be in the map is extremely important for a developer to think about. And again, you guys have done it really fucking well. You know, your spawns are spread out well. There's tons of different choke points. There's a lot of places where you can flank and maneuver to get behind enemies, so you can flank them. You know, you guys have definitely hit that on the head very, very well. So.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. Yeah,
The beauty
I
of the
appreciate
maps,
that.
there's no one place you can stand.
I gotta go use the head real quick.
Get shot from several angles.
Sure.
And that's the important part about, you know, like map design. You can't just hold a choke point from one side. There's always a chance someone's going to take you out from another direction, you know. And it's hard to split your team around that, you know, and coordinate really well. And that's how it should be, you know, especially games like Push and stuff like that. For sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just a matter of being careful. It's just a matter of like not harming the sanctity of the level design.
Yeah,
the flow. Exactly. It's just the flow. Like if you plop down a Hesco barrier or a sandbag or a barrel, like anything in this alley, like, is it overpowered? Like, is it giving the defenders an advantage that they shouldn't really have because we worked so hard to give the defenders this angle, and this angle to watch out for?
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate and respect like what Squad does, you know, because their game's built on it. In Squad, the levels are built around like building shit. In Battlefield 5, like, you know, I only played the alpha, but they tried to take that into account. But even for Battlefield 5, like, you know, you got to be careful. Like, the game's so fast paced. Like, these fortifications, you need to be really careful with design wise. Like, how are they going to work? Like, are they just going to be vaulted over like immediately? Are they going to be destroyed immediately? I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but people love building. Like, I don't know. It's just something that like
Minecraft, man.
Well, yeah, Minecraft, Fortnite. Like when I play Squad, like the super videos, like
super fobs.
Super fob videos. Yeah, everyone likes building.
Whoa! Stop. What's a super fob?
It's just when you overbuild a fob. It's just the most ridiculous thing.
It's the main point of the gameplay, and it'll win you every match, dude. It's the,
oh yeah. Just make a huge fob.
It's the best way to play.
I like that. But yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, it's, you know, it's speaking more conceptually about game design. It's about investment, I think. Like, look at this thing I made. Look at this cool, I have to protect it now. Like, if in a game, if you're just going and just shooting and just dying and you have no effect on the world and you don't feel like you even have an effect on the outcome of the match, then whatever. That's what's so cool about Squad and Arma is like every life feels meaningful, and like you can do stuff in that life that can make a mark on the map and turn the tide of the battle, not on a tactical level, but on a strategic level. So that's what's cool about those things. But yeah, for fortifications for us, like, it's a neat idea. That's something that we'd have to experiment with, though. Like, I'd be personally pretty skeptical about it just for the way our levels have their flow, so to speak.
That makes sense. I mean, Gooms there in the chat suggested like a duo class, sort of like the commander and observer for building fortifications and like building up like, say, maybe mortar positions or MG spots or something like that. You know, even having like a singular fucking 40mm or even, I don't know, however, I'm not a mortarman, I don't know all the mortars and shit, but just having like a mortar somewhere you could just use on a map, drop some fire down real quick would be pretty cool.
That'd be an idea to kind of beef up the observer's role a bit, you know, let him place a static machine gun. Not necessarily barricaded, you know, just, you know, he has a 249 with a 100-round belt on it. That's it. It's placed there now. And, you know,
Or maybe you could call in like a placement for it or something that's like timed. Who knows?
Yeah, or maybe we just are really diligent about restricting it into certain areas.
Sure,
that's true. Like that's stuff that we could consider. That's actually something else. Is like static MGs. People have asked about, and yeah, it's another thing we could consider. Again, like as long as it's not like in a really OP spot, you know, that's the tricky part with it.
Okay. So moving on to maps. So what other maps do you guys have planned in the future? Because obviously you're mostly a desert setting with insurgents, stuff like that. So it's going to be mostly taking place in the Middle East. We got Farmhouse, Crossing, Summit, Hideout, Precinct, and Refinery. What other kind of maps can we expect to come out in the near future? Or, you know, post-release even?
Those will be the 6 maps for release. For post-release, we're looking into doing a bunch of different maps. I can't talk too much about some of them. I wish I could, because
we all know what an
really
NDA is and all that.
Yeah. No, it's all good. Unless all 327 of you promise to keep a secret. but yeah, it's something that we're going to be doing post-release, is adding more maps. They're going to be free. We're not going to split our community like that.
Okay.
Unless we did like an expansion pack for a different setting, then that would be a separate thing. But yeah, we did that for Insurgency for like no shit, like 3 years. New maps, new weapons, new game modes, new voiceover by yours truly, all kinds of different content. You know, like it was really important to us to keep our community engaged, you know, and we wanted to do new stuff. We even had map contests with our community, and the winner got to be in the game. You know,
that's awesome.
Stuff like that. Yeah, it's super cool. And like like I was talking to you about Ben Turtel, our first-person weapon animator.
Yeah,
and we also had another guy on in our community. His name was Chief C. If you ever played Insurgency custom co-op, chances are you played a Chief C map. And you know, I was the community manager at the time, and I interviewed him. I was like, "Oh, we all love your maps. It's super cool." And he turns out he's like an old school guy. He used to play like as far back as Delta Force.
Really? I remember maps. Delta Force back then. That shit was fun.
And he was an airman. He was I forget what kind of sergeant in the Air Force. And it was funny because like we were going through his maps. One of them was called Launch Controls in a missile silo. And I was like, "This is a cool map. Tell us more about it." He's like, "Yes, it's based on some of the missile silos that I've been in." And I was like, "Oh, sweet."
That's cool.
But yeah, we hired him too because like, how could we not? He's badass. But yeah, so anyway, we do want to add more maps post-release. Those maps that you just mentioned, those 6 maps will be in for release. Sorry, so quick question. Does Mr. Brightside still do the animations? Yes. Mr. Brightside, Ben Turtel, is very talented, and he did pretty sure all of our first-person animators. Again, you know, we're a small team, so like you have a lot of creative consistency, I guess, when you have that. And
yeah, he did.
You can tell like his style.
10 out of 10 job on the animations, because that's like my buddies give me shit all the time because I'm always talking about animations and games and how important they are for immersion, not only first person but third person. You know, making sure the guns that you're using feel heavy, they feel strong, they feel like you're shooting a gun. Whereas if you're, you know, playing a game like COD, it's just like you're just kind of you're shooting at shit, you know, just you're shooting fake bullets. You know, when I play shooters, I like to look for that simulation. Like games like Tarkov, Squad, Insurgency, you guys have really captured like weapons and how they make them feel lethal, how they sound lethal, and especially when the bullets are landing. Like when you're hitting something, it feels like, oh fuck, I'm dealing damage to somebody, not just, you know, peppering them with nothing. You know.
Yeah, definitely. It's you know, it plays into our gunplay. You know, like people don't think about it, but when you talk about like the satisfaction or the gunplay of fighting people, you know, killing people, which is what every FPS is about.
It's the core foundation of a game. It has to be fun, and animations, yeah, they have so much to do with that.
The game is great feedback when you shoot someone. Yeah, you know, blowing someone's arm or head off with a shotgun. It's like, you know, it's that's or you RPG blast someone right across the bridge.
Like at the end of the day, like if PUBG became like a fucking CQB shooter, nobody'd play that shit because the gunplay's, you know, it's decent, but you know, it's not on that level. You know, it's not something that'll keep somebody keep coming back and wanting more. The only reason they play it is because, you know, battle royale. You can keep coming back and they want that battle royale experience. And you know, I always say like your guys' gunplay. You know, if you guys ever wanted to move on to another project to make something different, like just take the little gunplay that you have and you could take that and make any other kind of shooter and it would be fun because the core foundation of the game that is there is already set in stone. It's great. The animation system, being able to select items and stuff like that. You can literally make any kind of game, battle royale, survival game, open world survival shooter. It doesn't matter. Competitive FPS, which is kind of what this game already is. It would still be good. And you guys could always branch out and make more stuff.
But yeah, I can't talk much about like our future projects, of course, because you know it's secret, but also like we're still talking about it. But yeah, I guarantee you, like just personally speaking, like I'm a gamer. Like anybody who works in game development is a gamer.
Of course, you guys are the most true gamers there are.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. You guys make games that don't exist for yourself. Like,
yeah, you know, it's true, dude. Like nobody ever, like we're not aping anybody, right? Like I guess you could say we're kind of aping Dave Defeat from Half-Life 1 a little bit, the Rogue Spear or like whatever. But you know, we're inspired by those things, and we're going after. You know, it's no secret. Like there's some big fucking people that we're going up against, right? Like it's huge. But we know what we like. We know what our audience likes. We think we can grow that audience with people like. Did you play Insurgency, Clean, or actually Odd and Karma? Like, did you play the original Insurgency?
Oh yeah,
a little bit,
yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah, but only a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like. Right.
I remember when I first started playing the original Insurgency, there was just more up-to-date new games out at the time. I was like, wow, this game's really good. I wish I found this a long time ago. But, you know, there's already games that were just like on another level than it because it was a mod, you know, it's on the source engine. It's limited by a lot of technology. But, you know, your guys' game is like really a true sequel. You know, it's something that AAA studios don't even do anymore. They're not pushing the technology. Like, you know, let's look at Battlefield or COD. Like, it's still the same gunplay. It is still the same graphics. It's on the same engine, just with new maps, new guns, new voice acting, and like new art design. That's it. Whereas the foundation of the game is still exactly the same. Your guys' foundation is entirely brand new. It's built off new technology. It's a new engine. There's new gameplay mechanics. There's new animations. You know, it's legitimately a true sequel to the first game. And AAA studios, they don't do that anymore. They just keep kind of making the same games over and over to appeal to a certain market base to maintain sales. And, you know, a lot of people don't look at it like that because the 14-year-olds who are buying the game, they don't know the difference between fucking Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 2. They don't know the difference. It's just like, oh, it's a new game. But realistically, the guns are going to handle the same. The game's going to play more or less the same. There's kind of like new game modes on top of it. And hey, Battle Royale. Sweet.
Right, exactly. I think, you know, it's obviously they can do what they want. Like they have their market. They want to tackle things, I guess, more in terms of setting. Their iterations on their core design is pretty minimal, I think, for both those brands, both those franchises. But, and you know, honestly, to me, like as a gamer, just personally, that's a bit of a shame. Like I think it would be cool if they took more risks.
Yep.
Battle Royale, sure, you could argue like that's a bit of a risk, but is it really that big of a risk? Like it would be cool, but just by nature of being larger studios, you know, they can't be as experimental, but also like, to be fair to them, they have their audience. They know what they like. They know what COD is. When you play Battle Royale COD, it feels like COD a lot.
Yeah.
But I think that secondarily, one of the shame of that, or not the shame, but like something that is a bit of a shame, is you don't get as much experimentation. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be experimental.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's validating to hear you guys say you feel like it feels good to kill people in our game, because that's just what we're going for.
Yeah, no, it's just, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, is the core gameplay fun or not? Is it, when you pick up a gun and you shoot somebody, is that fun? Is it enjoyable? You know, because if you're making an FPS game, like that's really the most important thing, is to focus on your foundation.
Well, I could tell you in the future, again, without being able to really talk too much about what that future is, like, yeah, for shooters and any FPS game we're going to be involved in, like, yeah, this is obviously we're going to inspire ourselves, so to speak, and like this gunplay feels good, and we have some ideas of cool things to do. But yeah, that's definitely important to us, is our gunplay.
Well, definitely excited, looking forward to the future then too.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, I wish I could talk more about that, but I guess
maybe off stream sometime you could tell me about it.
Yeah, maybe do an NDA, like it's. Oh yeah.
I'll sign one.
We can NDA.
I'll sign it. I'll sign the fuck out of it. So competitive play, esports. What do you guys plan, you know, moving forward for esports? I know you guys have your Firefight game mode, which is vastly competitive and super dynamic. Like, what are your guys' plans to try and, you know, maybe, you know, make a cut in the esports community?
Real quick, before we wanted to move on to that, was there another part about CQB maps? I think. There was
no, sorry, I skipped over.
No,
that.
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, CQB oriented maps, something real close quarters. What else do you guys got for us in terms of maps?
Yeah, because I thought this was a good question. We do, and especially in regards to the vehicles, that was something I wanted to mention. Vehicles to us in general are very supplemental to the gameplay. We have CQB oriented maps. Our game is an infantry combat map. It's about the high intensity room clearing, the high intensity objective play, I don't know what's around that corner. I have to be careful because I could die in an instant. That's really what we're going for. Vehicles are meant to be supplemental to that. They're kind of used in a way where it's like, I'm not using this technical to get to the objective faster necessarily. I'm going to set it up and use it like a damn mobile turret, you know? And it's really effective. That's kind of the reason why we put the shield in the front, to prevent people from being able to kill gunners so quickly. That's kind of our goal in terms of vehicles. And it just kind of goes to show our focus on infantry-based combat. And that's why, like, even though our maps have grown in size in Sandstorm, they've grown in size since Insurgency, the original, we still have that CQB focus. It's just more filled with stuff. That being said, we could explore more open maps in the future. You know, we're curious to hear community feedback on that, if people feel like the maps are too close quarters. But even though that's like the kind of game we're trying to sell, like, you know, Insurgency, you guys might remember the maps, Panj or Bariz or Sinjar, they were more open. You know, it's something that we could explore there.
I think your maps are at the stage where people play them and they don't complain because the maps are that balanced. You know, that distance thing isn't an issue right now. But when you start to open up, I guess people will start realizing, you know what the limitations are of distance when it comes to Sandstorm. So I guess you won't know until you give it a shot with a larger map, I suppose.
Yep. No, it's true. It's something we could experiment with because again, like we've had precedent. Some maps were a little more open in Insurgency, but you know, honestly, like we have a ballistic system now. We have a cool one. It's like half hit scan for really close range.
I like that a lot. It helps a lot. That's good for netcode more than anything.
Exactly. Yeah, it's also good just for general responsiveness. You know.
I think Black Ops does the same thing. They have hit scan within, I think it's like 100 meters. And then, actually, no, it's up to 100 meters. Then at 100 meters, then the round starts to drop. And I noticed that was the first time I've ever seen bullet drop in COD. And I'm like, wow, this actually is nice.
Right?
I like
Isn't
it.
that interesting?
There's bullet drop here, so I actually have to aim up. It's not just hitting the same spot every time immediately.
We're pretty subtle with our. Here's how it works. Like it's only 10 meters for us, or 15 meters, where it's like there's very small ballistic effects. You know, like the round's not going to slow down that much or anything. But even within that, like there's still going to have all the ballistic simulation. It's to come. It's not fully implemented yet for that specific part. But then after it goes past that 10 or 15 meters, it goes away from being hit scan simulated and down to just being regular simulated. And then all these things are going to have more of an effect. The drop, not just the drop, but the speed. It's going to slow down. Not just the speed, but like, does it penetrate something?
Yeah.
The more stuff you penetrate, the harder that surface, the more it's going to slow down, the less damage it's going to do. So all that stuff all factors into it. You guys like Tarkov, of course.
Yeah.
I think his name is Fair TX. You guys know that channel?
Yeah, he does YouTube.
Yeah, he does YouTube channel. He has really funny Tarkov videos. You might like him.
He's actually a nice guy.
Oh yeah, he's cool. Like we reached out to him. He made a video on sniping in Sandstorm, and it's just a good example, I guess, of our ballistics. But we try to keep it really subtle. Like a lot of games, they have like huge bright bullets traveling real slow because they want to say, "Oh, we have bullet drop." And
I personally don't like it when games do that.
Exactly. Yeah, we want it to be subtle, but like in our game, most of the engagements are so close, so it only comes out sometimes. But that's okay. You know, it's the same thing with dismemberment. We don't want people to fucking explode all the time. We just want them to explode.
As satisfying as necessary.
Yeah, exactly. And that being said, I should say, like, because I think Odd, you were mentioning the dismemberment. We do want to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the caliber, right? And I've done it with the file sometimes. I like hit someone in the eye socket and his head's just totally vanished.
It's like it's a little quaky, you know.
Yeah. It kind of adds a more comedic tone, and I think that's fine for the game. You know, it's not ultra realistic. You know, it's just a bit of fun. But it takes me back though to the mod. You know, and not a lot of games had ragdoll physics at the time, and Source was, you know, the sort of one hand of it. Clocking someone in the head at like 200 meters and watching his head snap back and then his body roll down like the side of a hill did. It was great. And not a lot of games have that. You know, you had Modern Warfare. You shoot someone, they do the same death animation over and over. And it's a good feedback, you know, when you kill someone, and it makes you feel good. So when you get 2 or 3 people in a row and they're splayed all over the wall and like the body's ragdolling and like
honestly, one of my favorite games right now is I'm playing called Mordhau. It's basically like Battlefield Swords. It's a first-person action medieval combat game. It has some of the best.
I gotta look that up. It has some
of the best. I could probably get you a key. I know the fucking community manager really well. But the game's super fun, and the ragdolls on that. When you hit somebody with the sword and you chop their head off, like swoop, their head just comes off and they just kind of flop down, or you stab them and they fall to their knees and you can kick their body. It's immensely satisfying. And so getting that feedback,
that's ridiculous.
From
you can take their arms off and then they can try and run around and try not to be killed.
Yeah,
you can kick the body too.
Yeah, you can dismount. You can literally, like, you kill somebody, you can chop their body up to bits.
Did you ever play The Warrior? This is pretty obscure. Did you ever play The Warriors? It was based on that movie. It was,
yeah. That was. I remember my mom was like, "You can't play this game."
I remember that game. It was horrible. Yeah. In that game, speaking of kicking bodies, you could stomp on. It was one of the only times I've been truly disgusted in a game, aside from Soldier of Fortune cutting off a person's face.
Yeah.
But you could stomp on a guy who was trying to crawl away from you, and if you did it enough, he would throw up and pass out.
Yeah.
And when I did that in the game, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, I actually feel bad about what I did.
Yeah, you could shift people with broken bottles and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it was so. It was awful.
It was over the top. Yeah, that was Rockstar's niche. You know.
Did you guys play Chivalry? Because Mordhau reminded me.
Yes.
Well, so I played Chivalry. didn't really like it that much. However, Mordhau, it's like that game just like 20 bajillion times better. Like you can literally like clash, like if you attack from the same direction, you can like clash swords like mid swing and dynamically like shift to your next attack and shit. And it's all skill based. You can literally be some naked dude with a stick. You could beat some guy with a fucking full armor and a great sword because the game's entirely skill based. And that's like, and again, your game, it's a very skill based shooter. And I love it when there's not a lot of artificial assists from gear. You know, whereas like if you're just a player and you got some shitty ass weapon, you can still win. Just like EFT, like you can still kill a guy with a Makarov even if he has full kit. All you have to do is just shoot him right in the face if he doesn't have a visor.
Exactly.
If he has a visor on, that's a different story. But you know, it's I love games like that. Mordhau is one of those games, and I'm hoping we're actually gonna be able to do a podcast with them in the very near future. But that game is just cool, super fun ragdolls. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, if you can get me a key,
I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can do.
No, it's okay though. Like I'm not above buying anybody's video game.
You can't even buy it. You can't even buy it right now. It was Kickstarter.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't even buy it.
Yeah,
right
okay,
now.
that makes sense. Yeah.
One of the most polished alphas I've ever seen, though. Not gonna lie, one of the most polished alphas I've ever seen.
Yeah, it does the momentum really well. You know, when you get hit with something, it kind of knocks you off your feet and stuff.
It's so
cool.
much fun.
Yeah, you actually feel like you're holding your sword.
Yeah, and there's so many different kinds of weapons too. I want to play it
right
now.
I'm seeing 64 players.
Yes, it's literally a 64 player. See, the thing is, I guess we're kind of getting really off topic here, but it's easy for them easy for them to optimize it because there's no ballistics. It's all melee. So it's a lot easier for the engine to handle that. Whereas if you have a lot of fucking bullets and shit flying around everywhere, that's more for the server to kind of keep track of. Where with them, they only have to really keep track of sword swings and like physical damage. But anyway, we got hella off topic there.
No, sorry. Thank you. I'm glad I know about it.
We're all gamers here, chat. All right, we're all gamers. We love games.
It's true.
So competitive play, esports. What are your guys' angles for trying to go esports, and how you want to kind of hit that competitive market for your? Because your game does have a ton of potential to have that.
We do feel like we have that potential, and one of the things what we have in the game already is a competitive matchmaking mode, and it's based on firefight. So firefight again is the mode where it's like, there's 3 objectives. You have to either capture all the objectives with your team, or you kill the enemy. You only respawn when you capture an objective. So you get those cool clutch moments. You get matches that are over very quickly, or they last very long. A lot of turning the tables, a lot of comebacks, that kind of thing. In this competitive firefight is what we call it, like the mode for specifically comp firefight. You have it's limited to 5 players, 5v5. The round time limit is a little shorter, I believe. And also you have more rounds in general that make up the map. And you have a team switch, and all that stuff. So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go
ahead. Do you plan on like having the community still do most of the competitive stuff, or do you guys plan on hosting more things from, the official side of stuff like tournaments and stuff like that, or do you still plan on having that mostly community run?
Well, ideally we like to have both, right? Like the DGL is a big competitive league, but there's even like the PGL from Pacific Gaming League, the ESL even had their own little branch. They are welcome to do any kind of tournaments they want, and they can mod the game. Eventually when we add more modding support post-release, which is coming, of course. We're modders, we're gamers, we get it. We want to allow the game to be moddable. They could even modify the rules themselves, make their own competitive rule sets or whatever, or just host their own on like the vanilla or native rules, so to speak. But yes, that's something that we're exploring. Ideally, we'd like to have like our own events plus the events plus the community events from those other leagues. However, like at this stage right now, like we're still fleshing it out. Like we're not going to have any tournaments anytime soon that we don't have planned. We're still trying to flesh out the competitive, still trying to balance it and tweak it, trying to make sure it feels good, and also just making sure the overall user experience of the matchmaking feels good too, because there's still some stuff we need to work on as far as the matchmaking for competitive goes. And yeah, because again, it's like a beta, but even post-release, like that stuff's still going to be coming. But the short answer is yes. Like we want to flesh out the competitive. We want it to be, we want to have proper ranked play in the tiers that we already have. But we also want to explore doing, organized tournaments and stuff like that. But I can't say we're doing that yet. That's just stuff that we're planning to do.
Yeah, sure.
Like Nikita would say. It is Nikita, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. But yeah, so that's stuff that we're planning to do. We're going to explore. But right now, it's just about getting the matchmaking fixed.
Okay.
Someone's talking about that in the chat. Not just fixed. Yeah, there's issues with the matchmaking right now in competitive, but it's also about just making that experience smoother. Like, for instance, we're talking about adding like a ready up feature. That would be nice. And also a few other things. But yeah, like basically there's a bunch of stuff that we want to do with that, but it's a matter of getting the matchmaking working, then talking about doing tournaments and stuff.
Okay. So we already talked a lot about post-release content throughout the podcast. Like, what are you guys' plans for DLC? Obviously, you know, we know maps, guns, more cosmetics. What about factions? Are we gonna get any new factions? Is there any like new content we can expect like on release day versus what we have right now?
We are talking about doing some new voiceover. I feel like I can't talk about it just yet.
Okay.
But there is new voiceover that we want to come in either for release or post-release. It's something that we're still discussing. I think that one of our focuses is like we're not really interested in adding like a whole new faction. We'd rather add characters and cosmetics and aesthetics that would make sense for the two factions we already have. To add a new faction is like, yeah, that could be cool, but we'd like to just kind of make it work with what we have, because that means we can do more with it. Rather than like trying to make this huge, unique aesthetic, why not just let both factions borrow from those clothing items or whatever and tie that into the cosmetic system, so to speak? And why not just, if we have, like, for somebody in the chat says British forces, yeah, a British special operations soldier would fit in perfectly with the security team. And we can do more stuff like that with both factions, really, with interesting kinds of characters that you fight with that would make sense to be fighting there. And that's what's cool about, I guess, the vagueness of our setting, is we can just kind of do what we feel is thematic and works and has some, I guess, foundation or some level of realism or feasibility to it. So yeah, does that make sense? Like, instead of taking the faction approach, we're more likely to take like a character approach within the factions.
Cosmetic changes. What about like character voices and stuff? Will you be adding more on top of that as well when you add these new items? That's what
I meant to say initially.
Right, okay.
People, like, we'd add a new character. Right now there's 5 characters in the game. There's security as American Special Operations Soldier. There's a indigenous regular who could be like militia or regular military or even law enforcement or local special forces. And then there's a militia member who's the female fighter, who again could be a regular, militia, or any of the same groups. There's even like an SOF group being trained in Afghanistan that I read about recently. I don't know much about that though. I'm not sure if that's totally true. But then you go to the insurgent side, and you've got like the rebel character who's a rebel. He's untrained. He's a little more panicky and stuff. And then you've got the operative who's a little more trained and comes from, he's an Arab himself, but like where he's coming from and what his motivations are and what he's doing with these insurgents and why he's referring to his magazines as magazines and stuff like a trained person. That's he's a little shiftier, his origin. So, but yeah, there's a lot of different directions we could take that kind of voiceover and those characters. Someone's asking if we'll put you in the game, Odd, because of course you have quite a nice voice and an interesting, unique accent.
Flashbang through the door.
Flashbang through the door.
Do people talk about that all the time? Today,
yes.
Comments. I was looking through the chat. People were like, "Oh, they're making jokes about that, saying flashbang through the door."
Always.
I thought, it must be directed to
kind of like an inside joke.
That meme was all the time. No, leave me alone.
But hold on, flashbang through the door was by Price.
Yep.
It was, and this is where the joke comes from.
Yeah,
because they can't tell the difference.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like, sorry, your accent is it Irish or is it Scottish? Oh, I'm
Scottish,
sorry, it's Scottish. Okay, yeah. Price wasn't Scottish. He was a Brit, wasn't he?
London. Yeah, he's from London.
Yeah, so that doesn't feel fair. That's not your accent.
You take the one on the left. I'll take the one on the right.
All right. So we're pretty much wrapping up here. We're getting pretty close to our conclusion. So bit of a brief recap of what we talked about today is we went over a lot about what the game is supposed to be, the vision of the developers, the current game modes they have, what they're going to be doing to expand the game modes and trying to make the maps and game modes feel a little bit more dynamic and interesting. We talked about the AI co-op game modes, the player progression, a lot of the criticisms of the third-person player models and animations, and overall gameplay features and elements like vehicles, possibilities for fortifications, different types of game modes like Battle Royale or any other kind of tactical game mode that would kind of add on well to the Insurgency game. Also, the maps, we'll be getting some more maps at release, as well as hopefully some more CQB-oriented maps near post-release. And we kind of touched on competitive play a bit, on what the goals are for competitive play, and lastly we just touched on a lot of the post-release content. The Black Site team, we're going to be having servers as soon as they're available and open up, so you guys can definitely expect the Black Site community to be having servers open day one as soon as they're available, so that we can get you guys as much action-packed gameplay as you can get. Action-packed. So with any closing words by any of the gentlemen here, Boz or Karmacut, if you guys would like to say anything, feel free. This is your time.
No, thanks for having me on.
No? Well,
Yes.
I had one other actually thing. Sorry, real quick. This is something I meant to mention when we were talking about the release content, post-release content, that I forgot about before when we were talking about character cosmetics. One of the other things we're adding for release is tattoos. We're gonna have tattoos to be available, for both insurgents and for the security.
Nice.
And this was one of the things where, again, we're always skirting the line. Is it realistic for indigenous Arabs to have these wicked ass, very Western looking skull tattoos with, AR-15s and all that kind of stuff? And again, it's a projection, right? And it's a game. It's up to people if they want the character to be that kind of character. So that's okay. But yeah, basically we just decided it's very visual. It's right there in first person. It could look really cool. So ultimately, we decided something we wanted to do for both the insurgent and security factions.
Fantastic.
Also, I don't know if you guys have time, I'm good on time. We could just take a couple questions from the chat.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with that. If you guys have some questions, feel free to just start asking them in the chat. If somebody want to know suicide vests, is that ever going to come to the multiplayer?
Yeah. That is in the co-op. You can get killed by a suicide bomber. We were talking about them earlier.
Okay.
But yeah, as a gameplay thing, I don't know. I don't.
Do you think it would be grief? People would kind of grief it too much, be a little bit.
It doesn't. Yeah, it feels kind of unfair.
I mean, if they wanted a suicide bomb, just pull the grenade on a pin and just run at them. And
exactly. Somebody posted on our Reddit today and talked about a strategy we never even thought of. You take an IED, you throw it down on the ground. You tell your friend to pick it up. You have your friend run into a crowded building, and you have them say, "Okay, now."
Yeah, no, that would be fun. Yeah, that's always fun. You could pass my C4, be like, "Hey, man, you got this."
Good luck.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah, and I don't know. You should be able to do that with vehicles too, but they might not stick. Everybody remembers the Jihad Jeeps from Battlefield 2, they called them.
Shotgun balance. People feel like they're OP, and I can definitely attest that I've fucked people up with the shotgun.
I know you like that shotgun.
I fucked people up with that thing. Even at a distance, though, even at 25 meters, 50 meters, which is generally the effective range of buckshot or slug, you can still really fuck people up with that thing. You guys gonna
favorite thing to do.
I'd say don't change it. I like it. I think the shotgun's balanced because you miss that shot, you're gonna fucking die. Considering you're fighting a competent player, but if you get somebody who's really good with the shotgun, they can just wreck house.
The time to kill is super fast anyway, and it's a skill-based gun, and that's the way it should.
Yep.
Yep.
I think that we could maybe make some tweaks. Somebody mentions it in the chat, and I kind of agree. I'm not sure yet, but Flechette might be a little too good because it's just too perfect with the spread and with the penetration. Yeah, it tightens the spread or the choke or whatever, but it also the Flechette are more penetrative. If that's a word we use.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's. That's its purpose. It's supposed to be able to go through shit and shred armor.
Exactly, yeah, but it's super good, and that's why we removed AP from the game. It's AP rounds were just too good and too arbitrary. We're
everybody would use AP. It becomes a meta.
Well, exactly. The meta in Insurgency, not exclusively, but largely was just get AP because why not? It's worth the supply. So instead of having people make interesting choices with their supply or teamwork-oriented choices I'll get a smoke grenade, they're oh, just give me the AP and I'll camp in the corner and I'll delete people with my fucking assault rifle. But yeah, so with the shotguns, I kind of agree with you guys. We could nerf them a little bit, but if you miss the first shot, you're done. Our game's so lethal.
Yeah.
You that short amount of time it takes to pump the shotgun, you can fire 5 times with an assault rifle, and that'll kill you easily.
Yeah. So. One of the good things about the game is that every gun in the game is viable.
Yeah.
Like, there's not one particular gun that's good at anything unless it's this unique, factor. Shotguns, close range,
And
of course.
adding,
SMG's the same.
Adding to the skill-based, gameplay. That's what it's all about. You can have a Makarov and you can still fuck people up. Obviously, it's not the best gun for the job, but you can still do it.
Yeah, it's down to skill. Yeah. It's down to skill. Yeah. I had a question. War Thunder does this thing called squadrons, and you can basically invite people to your squadron, and then it gives them a specific tag physically. Would that be something you'd be implementing, like something along those lines? So you get a specific patch for your clan, say, or squadron, is it?
With the patch, that's interesting. We'd have to, be conscious about. I don't know how they do it, but if you mean like you can have your own patch that other players see, I got to be conscious of anything too.
Not so much a patch, just a like the clan logo,
indication,
like the name. Okay. Yeah. So you could run around with black sight on your back, or for another one, like marksman or whoever. Yeah. So like next to your name, like just to set you out, like you can be around with your buddies and everyone knows. All right, okay, well, it's a black sight guy. It's got that name on his badge, or you could recognize. It's just just something unique. Like
I see what you mean. Yeah. That's something that could be cool.
Not really a logo per se. Just the name tape.
Right. Yeah. I think if we can make it work with our gear, which I'm sure we could figure out something that could be pretty cool. So you can be behind your buddy and see his name or just the clan name. We were talking about SWAT 4 earlier. They did that even, which is always cool. That's a neat idea. It's something we could look into. But in line with that, I know it's not squadrons, but it's worth mentioning anyway. Like when we have other games do this, when you're in a party with somebody, we want to make their indicator in the tactical map and actually like in the HUD be a different color. So like, oh, there's my buddy. I'm going to be playing with my buddy. I'll follow him because he's blue or whatever. So that's something.
War Thunder does that same thing. Your teammates are squad mates are green. The rest of your teammates are blue. So you can tell straight off the bat who's standing next to you.
There you go. Yeah, we do want to do that, and that'll be cool. Someone asking about a security riot shield. I don't know. Like that's something that's. You always have to wonder, like when you add, not wacky weapons, but like irregular weapons like that, what they're going to mean for the gameplay. Like, all right, so this guy's got a shield. Is he just invincible? Are some weapons going to penetrate it? If some weapons penetrate it, isn't he just like rolling the dice every time he goes into a room to make sure nobody has a high caliber weapon that can penetrate it? Isn't it gonna harm our lethality, where like you expect when you shoot a guy for them to die pretty quickly, or suddenly they have a shield and they can run up to you and run around you with their shield? So I don't know. I would feel hesitant about that, I think, for those reasons.
Well, those shield things gonna break the game mechanics a bit, slow the pace of the game down even.
I mean, if you were to add something like that, I feel like the way to do it is basically the shield is bulletproof to everything, but there's just like a small window in that shield that you can shoot through, and one shot will do like reduced damage. The second shot will most likely kill them. Obviously, you could make it probably restricted, maybe like handgun rounds can't go through that or something like that. Who knows? But that's all just like concept talk, I guess.
Yeah.
The only one I know in real life they used at Le Bataclan in France when they had that terrorist attack, and it weighs 58 kilos. Takes 2 men to carry it. Yeah,
Holy shit.
Dropped it. They dropped it down the stairs while they were being shot at. That's how heavy it is. Yeah, they're big, those things. They're not light at all.
European law enforcement, they're like fucking knights, dude. Like, they're crazy. Yeah, that's exactly
the German dudes, have you seen them? They wear chainmail. Like,
I have seen that. Yeah.
That's
so
crazy.
they don't get like stabbed or hacked at, when they're because they go in like close buildings to fight terrorists, and some folks
makes sense, right?
Them. Yeah, so they're like, all right, I'm just gonna wear my chainmail. That's it.
Let's just get my chain.
Tactical knight, pretty much.
Here's a good question. Will you be adding NVIDIA highlights or replay feature? Yes, to both those things. We want to do NVIDIA highlights, and we're going to add the replay feature. It should already be working. Maybe it's not in the current live build, but yes, that's something that we. Yeah, okay. Jem said it. Yeah, it is already in the game. We even get those ourselves. So, like, if somebody says, you could actually say like, "Hey, can you show me what I did 2 weeks ago at 7:30 p.m. on Sunday?" And be like, "Sure, we'll just go right over there." Like, what was that one guy that I killed? It's right here. Like, I know it sounds simple, but that's crazy, right? Like, we log everything that happens.
That's crazy.
Pretty much everything. I think.
Any final questions from the chat here? Karma, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's great for a content creator point of view too, just to be able to grab all that stuff easily.
Oh yeah,
definitely. You can come out with the camera. You can move wherever you want. Like it's very flexible.
Oh, that's really cool. Going back to the flashbangs we were speaking about earlier, I had a question and I forgot at the time. But one thing that kind of frustrates me with flashbangs and grenades and stuff that you can't do like you can do in real life. You have to still put yourself in harm's way to try and get the grenade through a window or through a door. Is there any way you can maybe implement like posting a grenade, you know, while you're still in cover, or
like
do you still want to
throw a grenade?
Exactly that, yeah, because that's how you would do it. You know, you wouldn't stand in front of the door, throw the flashbang in.
Well,
and then,
one thing I do know they have is when you do lean, it does change the angle of the grenade throw. You can lean, throw it, and lean back. There's that.
Yeah, I do see what you mean. That's true.
But it would be nice to be able to just like hug a wall and just go pop, or like pop over cover. You know,
exactly that. Yeah. I don't know if
that's true, especially for breaching. I don't know. That's a good question. I guess it would be a design thing, really, because like, you know, Clean was saying it.
I don't actually know any game that has something like that, because you know, the idea behind the flashbang so that you're not putting yourself in immediate harm's way, so that you can go in there. But you know, if you have to look in the door through the window where the person you're engaging is there, you're in trouble, and all you've got in your hands is a flashbang.
Yeah,
you're dead. You know, in that situation. Yeah, it'd be good to give something to combat that, like make it a bit more smooth.
I think the tricky thing is, even though mechanically that would be really cool and useful, I think that it's a matter of control. Clean was talking about our player control and how tight it feels and good and everything, and like to have yourself like stick into cover like that only to throw a grenade. Like, what button would you press? Can you make the space for that? Will you accidentally get into that cover?
I would see it like this. Tarkov has a blind fire system where the character's arms will be here, then the gun lifts up, and then the gun lifts to the right. It basically just changes the angle of the muzzle. So you can basically.
And how do you? Okay.
So basically, all you do is it's a keybind. So you can just keybind. So for me, it's C and V. So V, right side blind fire. So you'd have G for your normal grenade throw, or you basically pull out a grenade. You could have middle mouse button be, I don't know, like the side thumb. Basically, all you got it is it's a different animation where he just throws the angle of the grenade differently. He just goes like this. Instead of throwing it straight, he kind of just goes, kind of like throws it to the side, like. So that way, it's kind of up to the player to make sure they get the right angle. So that way, like if they're standing up, like they know if I stand here, the grenade will go through the door. You know, it's going to go through this angle. However, there is room for player error where you can fuck that up. And people do fuck up throwing, you know, flashes before where you're not really seeing exactly where you're throwing. You don't know the exact angle because you're not throwing it straight in front of you. So, you know, that could be a way to do it. It's basically just changing the angle of the throw, essentially. So
okay, it's kind of like a lean and a throw at the same time.
Yeah, like because normally when your character would throw, it would go here, but instead your guy would change the animation. He goes like this. He just kind of like throws it to the side, like that, and that way it just changes the trajectory of wherever that throwable's going. So it's basically in front of you, then to the side. You know what I mean?
I do think that is pretty cool. One of the things I think that we try to keep with the game, though, is like in line with keeping it kind of medium fast and middle of the spectrum. We don't want to introduce too many different interactions, I guess, and too many different keys.
Keep it streamlined more than anything.
Yeah, I know that sounds like a bad word, right? Like streamlined or simplified. But honestly, as far as combat in a game and gameplay goes, like there is merit to that. We want people to be able to play the game with a gamepad. You know, we want people to be able to play the game on console too.
Or what about this? You could just on chat, just combine it with the leaning. So if you're standing straight, when you throw a grenade, it goes straight. But when you lean, it kind of throws it a bit more to the right. You know what I mean? Kind of like
that's interesting.
Like a more right.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So
I see what you're saying.
So that way, so if I'm standing stationary here, I throw my grenade's going straight. If I throw here, it's gonna kind of chuck it at just like a different angle. It's all about just changing. And then you can do the same thing for the left, and he goes like this.
Yeah. Okay. And then that would mean that as a player, like you just get good at knowing the right.
Yeah, and you know the angle. You know the angle. All it does is just slightly kind of change the trajectory of wherever the throwable's going.
Okay, yeah, I'll talk to some of the. I think that's a cool idea. I'll talk to some of the designers about that because like it's nice to be able to breach in that way without having a complicated interaction. I don't know if you guys played. I'm sure you did Red Orchestra 2, I think it was.
Yeah, and one of my favorite shooters.
System. Yeah, it was a great shoot. In fact, our funny anecdote, our founder, like our CEO who founded Insurgency, actually founded the original Red Orchestra back when it was an Unreal Tournament 2004 mod. or sorry, I think it was an Unreal Tournament 1999 mod. Either one. He founded it when he was 14 years old. He started that team and he started that project.
Wow, that's awesome. Red Orchestra 2 is definitely one of my favorite shooters.
Yeah,
Really
and I
good.
liked it too, but I personally, I didn't really like the cover system, so I didn't really use it because
nobody really did. Didn't
it
make much sense.
Yeah, so it was a cool idea. I liked that they tried to work with it, but I would want to avoid something like that. But I think this idea is interesting. I'll speak to some of the designers.
Okay.
Maybe post-release thing. I don't know.
All right, so guys, I think we're at here at our time limit here. So again, Mike, thank you so much for being here, answering all these questions and talking about your game. A lot of people here are definitely big fans of Insurgency Sandstorm, and we're definitely looking forward to it releasing. Oddboz, thank you for helping me co-host and keeping the discussion going. And Karma, dude, thanks for being our guest and contributing to the discussion, man. It's been great having you guys.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. I will be uploading this podcast to YouTube, so if you guys missed it, you'll be able to catch it on there. So guys, thanks for being here. If you guys are curious, I will be live a bit later. We'll be playing some Tarkov here in a bit. So without further ado, guys, peace out. Take care. Thanks for joining us, and I'll talk to you guys next time on the next podcast.